I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy un smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair. He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the Bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
Michael on the drive across the lane. Turnaround shot. Got it. 63 for Jordan.
He did what?
A ground ball past Jenks up the middle of the infield. Uribe has it. He throws. Out! Out! A White Sox winner and a world championship. The White Sox have won the World Series, and they're mobbing each other on the field.
You golden blank staggered black stone and blinkety bright punk, are you trying to do? Of all that low dirty...
Kobe Bryant on the move against Christie. In for the right. Flips his shot up. No good. O'Neal lays it up. Missed it. Ball tipped out to Horry. Straight on three. Good! The Lakers have won! Robert Horry's greatest hits tour continues.
Oh, no doubt about it. He's got to be getting a Grammy for that one.
Good morning, and welcome to the latest and the greatest edition of Snowman in the Morning on this Thursday, the best sports talk show you haven't heard of until now. Follow along with us on social media by typing in SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. You can also log on to snowmandigitalmedia.com for all of our great conversation from this show, as well as others produced by Snowman Digital Media. You can hear us every Monday through Friday on all of our great stations and networks in the region, across the nation, and around the world. The podcast version of this show will be available 1 hour after this show is completed, and in some cases may be available right after this show is completed. All right, enough frivolity. You ready to get started? I'm ready to get started too. Let's get going. Well. It seems like the NCAA is finally letting athletes earn money. Where was this thought years and years ago, considering, well, since 1980, since I started watching, when some of the most legendary players passed through their portals? To help me figure this out is Cole Johnson. He joins me right now. How are you, my friend?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. CJ just recently celebrated a birthday, and I figured no other way to celebrate a birthday than to talk some hoops with this man. Let's take a look at some of the Hall of Famers that have skipped the NCAA and found their way into the NBA. And I'm going back to the 70s with a fellow that you're very familiar with that graced the Houston Rockets uniform, Moses Malone.
Yes, one of the, and I mean on a short list, greatest high school to pros player.
Yep.
That ever existed in NBA history.
Yep. And someone else that's on that short list, Kevin Garnett.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one thought he'd be ready for the NBA when he appeared in 1995, and he certainly was. He had a wonderful career, and some of the players that have skipped college altogether and the money they've made in the NBA. And an article came out, and this is what we're going to touch on. An article came out saying the NCAA is finally taking steps to let the athletes earn a living while they earn an education. And my simple question is this, as I give you the floor: what took them so long?
You know, when the money gets to be real good, and and you don't want to think about seeing some of that revenue that you pull in leave.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe the NCAA was basically sort of in that way. It was like, man, we're making money hand over fist, and we shouldn't give this up to the athletes. And then on top of it, they almost now, not as much now, but still at times I hear it, that they spot we're the paragon of amateur athletics. Really? So the NCAA is amateur athleticism at its finest. Really? Okay. So not even in the sport of basketball. I mean, you just look at football. I mean, you pay, these bowls pay not necessarily the NCAA itself, because I know the NCAA makes money, but they pay the schools who represent the program.
Yep.
Millions of dollars just to make an appearance there.
Yeah.
And that's just football with the bowl. We're not even talking about the NCAA March Madness tournament, which I know garners, and I'm thinking I'm being conservative when I say this, $1 billion when they do it.
Yep.
Every March.
Do you know how much money Atlanta lost out on? Because they were the scheduled host of
this year,
of the Final Four this year. And not just the fact that it's in Atlanta, it's in a brand new stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in downtown Atlanta. The city of Atlanta, the workers they had planned to hire, lost billions. And yes, I'm saying this correctly, and I'm pluralizing this correctly. They lost billions this year with the coronavirus pandemic. But let's go a little further. How many billions have the host cities of Final Fours in the past lost when the NCAA doesn't give up a little chunk of that money, especially since they've been going to seats that seat at least 70,000 fans?
Yes. Yeah, you think about that. 70,000 seats, 3 games.
Yeah.
That's just the Final Four portion of March Madness.
Yeah. That's just the Final Four.
The Final Four.
Yep. and imagine how much money was lost just in let's go small with the first four that's always in Dayton, Ohio at UD Arena, a beautiful facility that I had a chance to see. UD Arena is a beautiful facility, brings in millions of bucks every year. They host the first four. So if you take the fact that millions of bucks come into Dayton, Ohio, folks, for the first four, to the billions they lost throughout the tournament and the Final Four in Atlanta, I think the NCAA decided it was beyond time that we let the athletes earn a little bit of a living. And I think what also prompted this is Dasheen Nix decommitting from UCLA to join the G League, and instead of just an education, he's getting $300,000 up front to do what he loves to do.
And I don't care how old you are, but double especially at 18. If at 18 you get a chance to have $300,000 paid up front to do what you love,
they'll take it. They'll snatch that in a heartbeat. Yes.
And if I was a parent of the 18-year-old, I'd say, you know what? I want you to go to school. I want you to get your education, but $300, girls?
Sick
that's how much they're paying you?
Sick them.
Sign that contract now, please. Sir.
Yes.
Sign it now.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what the NCAA has to compete against. You're having these 18 and 19-year-olds who they're saying, I don't want to, let's be completely forthright. I don't want to take money under the table and have the fear of being investigated for reasons beyond compare.
Yep.
Because the scholarship that I am getting is not paying enough.
And it really wasn't. And it really wasn't. from the time you and I have been watching college hoops, and it covers a while. As a matter of fact, let me bring a couple of teams from the 90s that made the NCAA, especially basketball, a ton of money with their appearance in the tournament and their television games throughout the season. Let's go back to 1990. You got the Running Rebels of UNLV, and then 2 years after that, you have the Fab Five out of Michigan. You want to tell me they didn't make the NCAA a ton of money?
And let's talk about the team in between those. Even though they didn't really get as much pub in 1991, but the Duke team,
Duke Blue Devils.
I mean, they were covered. I mean, they were basically like rock stars themselves. They were covered like we were seeing the Bulls were covered later on that decade.
Yes,
people were all about what Krzyzewski and Leitner and Hill were about. I'm thinking these are only 20 and 21-year-olds. I mean,
right.
Wow, they're not even in the pros yet. And you mean to tell me the focus, attention that team got, the Running Rebels, God, I love that team. The attention they got. And you know the Fab Five, the attention they got because
my God.
They revolutionized all of college basketball just by their presence alone. Not even talking about the back-to-back.
Yes.
Just their presence alone revolutionized college basketball. You may tell me that the NCAA, which made a boatload of money with all three of those programs, could have said, you know what? Thank you for the front of the jersey thank you for making the front of the jersey profitable. You know what? We're going to make the back of the jersey profitable for you. You mean some of the NCAA did not make enough money that they could kick it back to the students?
They could have easily kicked it back. They could have easily kicked it back to the students. Again, I go back to 1990. The Running Rebels ran the table, demolished Duke in the championship game. And remember, this was held in arenas, okay? This is when the NCAA tournament was held in NBA arenas where they can slip 17, 18,000 people. But then you go to 91, that same squad, Nevada, Las Vegas, in Indianapolis, in the Hoosier Dome? You mean to tell me Indianapolis didn't make a ton of money? Miss me with that. And now you got Lucas Oil Stadium. Billions of bucks in downtown Indianapolis for a 72-hour stay, which takes a year out to plan, and I know this. I've spoken to a lot of representatives in Indianapolis and just across the NCAA that have gotten in touch with me saying, hey, look, let's educate you on how this process actually works. And when they gave me that education, with the media coverage that happens in all these big stadiums, man alive. I mean, just from I've seen a couple of stations in Indy just televise or do quick 2-minute reports on them laying the floor down at Lucas Oil Stadium, or before that, the Hoosier Dome. Let's go back to the Running Rebels of 1990. Augman, Larry Johnson, Anderson Hunt, David Butler, Greg Anthony. That's the name I'm missing. They made the NCAA men's basketball as a whole a ton of money. And then you have one of my favorite coaches of all time, Jerry Tarkanian, the leader of the leader of those rock stars. He gave these kids a chance to shine. And when they played Loyola Marymount in 1990, and I'll get to Loyola Marymount in just a second. When they played Loyola Marymount in Oakland, California for the West Regional title, every eye in the nation was glued on that game. The underdogs from Loyola Marymount versus the high-scoring stars of UNLV. You know how much money those schools could have made off of that game alone?
Yeah, and that was an Elite Eight game.
Yes, yes. That wasn't even the Final Four in Denver. That was just an Elite Eight game. You know how much money they could have put into Northern California with that game alone? And this was 1990. Yeah. This was 1990. We're talking 30 years ago. Man.
And look, the NBA was in high gear around 1990.
Lord, was it ever?
To have the NCAA take a good chunk out of the popularity of the NBA, that should tell you something. That should tell you how big of a money-driving business, and yes, I'll say it,
it is
money-driving business college basketball became then.
Yep.
Forget 30 years later, that's where we're living now. It truly is a business, and if we were to not say it, we would be hypocrites.
Yeah, big time.
But it was a big time business then.
Yes, it was.
And we were seeing that.
I'll give you one of the best examples of a national championship game that, if you think about it, given the time, was undersold. How about March 29th, 1982? Why do I say it was Why do I say it was undersold? Why do I say it was undersold? Folks, listen to me carefully. You know where that championship game was held? In case you don't remember, New Orleans.
Yep. And not just New Orleans, the Superdome.
The Louisiana Superdome. 62,000 folks. 62,000, and they opened the whole place.
Whole stadium.
They opened the whole place. Come on now. Michael Jordan, a freshman, hits a game winner in front of not just 62,000 people, but everyone who was watching on network television at the time. And that was when CBS had the NCAA. God, I miss that so much. That was
well, they have it now, but they shared a wealth, so to speak. But yeah,
but if they could have shared should have shared the wealth then. Should have shared the wealth. Let's be real, okay? You know how many future Hall of Famers were in that game? Patrick Ewing, Michael Jordan, James Worthy.
James Worthy.
Okay.
Oh my God.
You know how many?
Not to mention the Hall of Fame coaches,
Dean Smith and John Thompson. Okay, I think it was 82, and that's when I really first started getting into it. 82 was when I thought the NCAA was put on the map. But then 30 years later to find out that game was undersold big time.
It was.
It was undersold. It was undersold, man. And even that game made millions of dollars. Made the networks millions of dollars. 1982, March 29th, 1982. How many millions were exchanged between CBS and the NCAA, and how many hundreds of thousands were kicked back to the schools? Something wrong with this picture.
And the players get nothing. And that's
not a thing.
That's what I'm talking about. The hard sweat of these 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-olds. Not the deans of the school, not the executives of the school, not the NCAA executives. These young men and women.
Yes.
They're sweating their butts off and they're getting nothing.
They're getting nothing.
And you're saying to them, well, your reward is you get to go to school for free. Really? You're just going to make them get up and do these practices, and do the practice as soon as school opens up. I'm talking about August.
Yes.
And
July in some cases.
In July in some cases.
Shall we mention the SEC or the Big Ten?
Right. And you can't tell me that when their seasons are over, that means they don't practice at all. No. Because for football that's false, because they hold spring practices with football.
Yep.
So when you have basketball, their season doesn't end in March. Their season ends when they walk across the stage in May.
Yep.
So you're saying they should give up at least 3 to 4 hours every day, sometimes 6. I would dare say sometimes 7 days a week. From August to May. And you're saying to them, yeah, and by the way, you won't play unless you get at least a C average. Hopefully you would make us look better if you get a B average.
Yep.
And you definitely make us look great if it's an A.
Mm-hmm.
So, study your butt off, practice 3-4 hours a day, and for your reward, an attaboy or attagirl. Get out of here, man.
With the way things are now, I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the trend hits women's basketball as well. This is what pisses me off about the WNBA. Okay? It's being backed supposedly by the NBA. Of course, the WNBA was founded in 1997. Remember the Houston Comets, y'all?
Yeah, man, I messed up.
Remember the Houston Comets, y'all? And shared space at, what's that place called? The Summit?
The Summit.
Yes, the Summit. Why has it, and I'm going to put this out there, and I'm making no disclaimers. I'm just going to ask a flat out have been answered, not just asked, but answered a long time ago. I've said many times on this show, and you've written shotgun with me, I love women's basketball. I absolutely adore women's basketball, and I have since the first women's Final Four that I watched on CBS with, here's a Texan that was a CBS household name, Frank Gleber was voicing the women's Final Four. Did I go there?
Man, he was good too. Underrated play-to-play guy. Man.
Frank Gleber was voicing the women's Final Four. Not to mention the fact he had NBA duties also, folks.
Yes, he did.
Not to mention he had NBA duties also. And the first women's Final Four was held at the Scope Coliseum in Norfolk, Virginia. Why hasn't the women's NCAA played in a big stadium yet? The reason I keep getting is that they won't sell it out. I think that would be right. Listen, the biggest stadium. Memory may jolt me on this one. Biggest stadium I've seen them play in was Tropicana Field in St. Pete. They've always been in arenas. If the men could put 70,000 in a stadium for a Final Four, why can't the women put 40,000 in a stadium for a Final Four? I mean, let's really go there. They had these, I want to say about a decade back, they had some challenge games in Phoenix, Arizona, outside. The roof was open at University of Phoenix Stadium, it was called at the time. They played outside and no seat to be had in the house. If you can do that in November, why the hell can't they do that in March and give these women the same kind of love that the men get? You mean to tell me you can't put 70,000 people in Phoenix, Arizona?
All right, and to give you a perspective, University of Phoenix Stadium, here's the perspective. Super Bowls can only be hosted in stadiums that hold at least 72,000 people in it. 72,000 seated people in it.
Yep.
So if Super Bowls, and many have been played there already, if Super Bowls can be played there, you mean to tell me that a women's Final Four couldn't pack that out too? 72,000? You mean to tell me there's not 72,000, forget college, just 72,000 women basketball fans wouldn't pack a stadium like that?
In a heartbeat they would. And you and I both know some hardcore women's basketball fans, men and women. And women.
Yes.
I covered the Chicago Sky for their first 6 years. And the year they got to the WNBA Finals, 2014, they had to play it at the Pavilion due to a scheduling conflict. Not a seat in the house. For the two home games, for the one home game, I beg your pardon, that the Chicago Sky hosted the Phoenix Mercury, not a seat in the house. Miss me with that. And the UIC
Probably
Pavilion was
people away.
And the UIC Pavilion used to have hockey. The UIC Pavilion had college hockey. Okay. And here's something else that really really gets on my nerve. Okay, Indianapolis has hosted a women's Final Four a couple of times, and I'm venturing to guess that it could be due to a scheduling conflict. But why hasn't it graced Chicago? Why are they afraid to grace Chicago?
I think now, this is what's going to suck. I think now it will bypass Chicago because seemingly NCAA is solidly looking for indoor football stadiums to host the Final Four.
Yeah.
And it's messed up that it's messed up you have that type of criteria because you're going to miss a whole lot of cities, which would be great hotbeds for Final Fours.
Yep.
New York can't host one.
Nope.
LA before
and New Jersey hosted New Jersey hosted a Super Bowl. New Jersey hosted a Super Bowl, folks.
New hosted an outdoor Super Bowl. Yeah. Yeah. And me, I personally would love to see them try an outdoor Final Four.
Yes.
I would love to see them try to do it.
Along the shores of Lake Michigan. Along the shores of Lake Michigan. Do you know what Chicago would rake in the bucks if the Final Four was ever hosted in Chicago, men or women? Because you can easily put 22,000 in the United Center for a women's basketball game. You could easily put 22,000 people in the United Center. So I think the women's NCAA tournament, the Final Four should be held in places that hold at least 20,000 people, especially with the way stadiums are popping up nowadays. When the Bulls were having their bull run, the second three-peat, the capacity at the United Center, let me throw some attendance numbers out here, folks. The capacity at the United Center is 21,711. Every finals home game in the second three-peat at the United Center drew, wait for it, 24,000. 24,000 plus every home game during the NBA playoffs. Forget the finals. 96 to 98.
I bet it wasn't just the finals.
Forget the finals. Every home game, every home playoff game that the Bulls hosted in the United Center had 24,000 in it. You mean to tell me you can't put 24,000 people in there for a women's Final Four? Miss me with that.
Yeah. Now for the women's Final Four, since they're be blunt, since they're lacking the balls to put the women in stadiums.
Yep.
Yeah, there is no excuse, no reason, no rationale that would be explainable enough to not have Chicago host at least a women's Final Four.
Yes. I mean, regional finals I've seen it. Regional finals I've seen in person. Big Ten tournaments I've seen in person. Hell, I did a high school game in 2000 that drew 20,000 for a high school game. 20,002. I was on the call for that game. You mean to tell me you can't put 20,000 in there for a women's Final Four? Baloney. I ain't buying it.
And that's the thing that I think they're missing is all these hotbeds that you could have Final Fours in. New York, for example.
Yes.
I mean, LA for another example. I mean, these places can easily and not even blink host events such as this without even halfway trying. Chicago is in that mix where you can throw, especially if it's sports, you can do anything sporting event wise.
In Chicago,
you got almost 10 million people in that area that live there. So you mean to tell me that Chicago, as rabid of a sports scene as it is, and the NCAA knows this because Indianapolis is not that far from Chicago.
Nope.
And you don't have them host anything there?
And where's the Big Ten headquarters? Downtown Chicago.
In downtown Chicago.
Downtown Chicago. The Big Ten headquarters is in downtown Chicago. If it's supposed to, let's put this out there, since we're throwing people want to call these conspiracies. No, these are actual questions. If you want to say the Big Ten is a college conference, and it is, why is it in downtown Chicago? Why isn't it on the campus? Why aren't these? The Southwest Conference held their conference tournament at Reunion Arena in Dallas every year. And not a seat to be had in the house in Reunion Arena. The Chicago Blackhawks put on a winter classic. It was a winter classic held at Wrigley Field, and then they held a Stadium Series game at Soldier Field. Listen to the scope of this, folks. And there's a reason I'm making this kind of comparison, especially for my hometown. You know doggone well you could host a women's Final Four in Chicago. And Chicagoans will eat it up.
You don't even have to try hard.
Nope. And you got the largest African-American high school basketball association in the country, the Chicago Public League. You mean to tell me those girls won't eat up a women's Final Four?
And the fact that the NCAA seems to hit this groove of, okay, let's go to Atlanta, let's go to Houston, let's go to Indianapolis. Not throwing shade on any of those cities whatsoever.
Right.
I lived in Houston. So I have love for Houston. Drive through Atlanta on an annual basis.
Yep.
Love Atlanta.
Yes.
Indianapolis. Man, I mean, basketball is such a huge, important aspect of that whole state.
It's a religion. That's the only way I can put it. That's the only way I can put it. My wife and I have talked about it a dozen hundred times. Basketball is a religion from high school to NCAA to pro. It's a religion in the state of Indiana. Right. Basketball is a religion in the city of Indianapolis.
Right. So I get why they want to continue to host those events there. Fine, cool, no problem with that. But you can't exclude these other cities that can do it upright.
Yes.
Yeah, and New Orleans, of course, is in that mix too. And I was born in New Orleans.
Right.
I mean, you can't exclude. You can't exclude Chicago. You can't exclude even Denver.
No. No, you can't. And Denver hasn't hosted a Final Four since 1990, since the Running Rebs were crowned champions. Denver, Philadelphia.
You can't exclude Philly. You can't exclude Boston. You can't exclude D.C. But that's what's happening. And I'm like, why? That doesn't make sense.
Let's go to, one place that hasn't hosted a Final Four in ages, and it'll be a perfect place for the women to kick off a Final Four in a big place. Seattle.
I would love that.
Seattle needs a women's Final Four.
I would so love that. I would so love that.
Just to take in the scenery, and you want to talk about a basketball haven? Seattle, Washington.
That's one. Slept on. I mean, Rip Van Winkle.
Yes.
That whole city is slept on.
It is
for basketball richness and history. Slept on for the fandom they have there. Slept on for the history and traditions that they have had because a Final Four was hosted there.
1995.
And actually, multiple ones have.
Yes.
So
yes, indeed.
So you can't tell me that you have eyes only for stadiums that have roofs on them. Because, well, basketball arenas can hold the men's Final Four. Man, please. I mean, this is a prime example of cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Right.
And this is what I was saying earlier. The revenue gets so good to these people, man. They don't want to give that up.
Nope.
And so they limit themselves and saying, okay, well, we can only go in places like, well, now they can go to LA because they have a big time dome stadium now there. But I mean, the only place they could go is LA now, Phoenix, Houston, Atlanta, New Orleans, Indianapolis. I mean, come on. You mean to tell me Miami can't host one? You mean to tell me Charlotte can't host one? And you live in the state now.
Yes, I do.
You want to talk about basketball being a religion, which it is in Indiana. I live in North Carolina. I know people walk, talk, live, breathe, sleep, talk trash about, and think almost only about basketball in North Carolina.
I got down here. I mean, my wife and I got down here, and I wasn't even here a month, and I'm talking to people about the ACC, men's and women's basketball. And believe me, I got my hat in the ring to cover some women's basketball here in Carolina. Matter of fact, there's a young lady by the name of Ace Koenig, graduated from North Carolina State. I had her on the program. Y'all will hear that interview in its entirety. And I know I've had her on, and people have heard the interview, but I'm going to play it again after this segment concludes because people need to really start getting in and feeling women's basketball. And I will be one of the biggest supporters for it until I go 6 feet under. But speaking of Final Four dates, places, okay, any of these places sound familiar? Lucas Oil Stadium, Mercedes-Benz Superdome, NRG Stadium, State Farm Stadium, Alamo Dome. There you go. Lucas Oil Stadium. So Indy gets it twice with Lucas Oil Stadium, which is a wonderful facility. I'm not going to sell Lucas Oil Stadium short because I've seen football and basketball in Lucas Oil Stadium. Matter of fact, called 3 football games at Lucas Oil Stadium. Let's a little time on stadiums here while I got Cole Johnson on the phone. The first time I ever saw Lucas Oil Stadium, it was being built in 2006. And I said to myself, I would love the opportunity to call a football game there or call a game there, period. 8 years later, October 2014, I got my wish and called the Circle City Classic with 30,000 people in attendance at Lucas Oil Stadium. You ever go into a place, sports-wise, and you're just in a pleasurable form taken aback by the surrounding?
It's funny you say that because the very first time I got a chance to go into NRG Stadium in Houston, and that stadium started to be built in 1999. It completed in 2002. When I got into that stadium, and I visited the Astrodome, God knows how many times. I've lost count how many times I went to that stadium. I walking into the facility, I was like, wow, this is impressive. And I tailgated there too. So tailgating was great. Walking into the facility was fine. Once I got, not even to my seat, but once I got outside of the corridors and started to approach my seat, I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a gorgeous facility.
Yes.
And I never felt that way about the Astrodome. Love the place though, but I never felt that way about the Astrodome. But I did about the NRG Stadium. I'm like, wow, this is a nice looking place. Yeah. That's exactly how I felt when I first saw that.
You get the point.
Yes.
And when I got to Lucas Oil Stadium, and so many, I got to throw this in there, and I'm throwing shade at a few certain people who said I'd never make the big time, and then they saw pictures of me. Yeah, you know where I'm going. And then they saw pictures of me in Lucas Oil Stadium in the booth. I'm sitting in the booth at Lucas Oil Stadium, suited and booted, ready to call the Circle City Classic between Kentucky State and Central State. And I've done it 3 times. I've done it 3 times. And people say I wouldn't get there once. I've done it 3 times. Like you said, oops. I've conquered Soldier Field. I've conquered Lucas Oil Stadium. Done Bankers Life Fieldhouse twice.
Oh, I bet that's a nice facility.
Oh, my gosh. State championships for Marquette Catholic 2014 and 15. It was an early wake-up call, but it was worth it.
Man, people should tell you that you can do something more often.
Oh, they still do. A few certain people whom I've shared with you do it. They still do it to this day. Let's see. Where else about Welsh Ryan Arena, Northwestern University, call games for Chicago State for 10 years, which is Division I, by the way. Let's see. Did Central State football and basketball for a year outside of Dayton, Ohio. That's an HBCU, by the way, folks. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Recently, Spectrum Center, Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh. Spectrum Center.
Yep.
For an NBA game.
Yeah.
Not high school, not college. Nothing wrong with that because, hey, wonderful high school basketball I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen wonderful college games, too.
Yes.
I mean, in person. I'm not talking about just on
TV. Yes.
But yeah, my friend here got to call an NBA game. So
with my good friend Bill Schoening, voice of the look. Bill is one of my best friends in life and in broadcasting, and I told him when I moved down here to Carolina, and I said, "Let me know when you come through Charlotte, and I will stop by and we'll visit, and then I'll let you do your thing." Yeah. Mr. Schoenig's response to me was, quote, "I'll do better than that. You fly by and do stats, and I'll drop you $100. Close quote. You're on. When I drove to Charlotte, and I never got a chance to tell this story on this program. You and I talked after the game. When I left, when I left, and my wife was so excited she wasn't able to go. We had planned to make it a couple day trip, but couldn't. So I had to go a day in advance down to Charlotte, a couple days in advance down to Charlotte. And actually, she did come with me for a couple days, but then she had to go back. When I got to the Spectrum Center, 90 minutes prior to tip, had to drive around a little bit to find where the media parking is, new place. It's just innate for me to find where media parking is. They show me where it is. One of the guys was so gracious, and I love him for this. And, he came up and he asked me, what's the problem? I said, I'm trying to find where the media parking is because I'm assisting Spurs Radio tonight. And he said, fly around to the other side of the building and I'll get you situated. You just need to put something in your dash that says you're a part of media so you don't get your car towed, and I will get you situated. I flew around to the other side of the building. He got me situated. And I had a piece of paper in the dash that said Spurs Radio. He walked me to the media elevator. I got escorted by a couple people to the media elevator into the arena, and the first person who I ran into was Sean Elliott.
Man. So you ran into a Spurs great.
I ran into a Spurs legend. Forget great. Anybody who remembers the Memorial Day Miracle from 1999 in the Alamo Dome. Yeah. I said, Sean, I paid him so many compliments because I saw Sean play at Arizona. And I fell in love with Sean Elliott's game then at U of A. Knee injury and all. Because remember, he had a significant knee injury during his time at U of A. Hell, Elliott's one of the reasons that one of my favorite college basketball teams is the Arizona Wildcats, because of Sean Elliott. I said, Sean, can I take a selfie with you, please? Because this is a guilty pleasure for me. You know, one of the producers for Spurs Television took my phone and took a picture with me and Sean Elliott. And I said, this is going to be a fun night. I went upstairs to Radio Row, and Spectrum Center is one of 5 arenas where their Radio Row is above the court and not on it. And I think it's going to become a standard that Radio Row goes above the court with how short the scorers table is. But I went upstairs to Media Row, actually, because radio and television were upstairs. Who's the next person I run into? The television voice of the Charlotte Hornets, and Eric Collins. He and I did public league games together. And the next person whose hand I shake, I don't know, Wardell Curry, Stephen Curry's proud papa.
Only one of the great 3-point shooters of all time.
Man, I told him flat out, I loved watching you play and watching you shoot, and he just has this big old smile on his face, and you would think when you folks listen, when you tell these players how you enjoyed them back in the day, it just seems like they blush because it makes them feel appreciated.
And yeah, it has to be a thrill knowing that they're hearing a fan account of something they did and how their exploits touched you.
I couldn't help it. I said the same to Sean Elliott, reminded him of the Memorial Day Miracle. He blushes and starts laughing. Talked to Dell. I said, love watching you play and love watching your son Stephen and Seth play.
And Seth. Mm-hmm.
And that just produced one big proud papa smile.
Yep.
Did the game with Bill Schoenig. Took some notes on how he puts his broadcast together because he's one of the few that flies solo for a radio call. He is one of the few that flies solo for a radio call, and I understand his preparation because for many, many years I flew solo. When I covered Chicago State, I flew solo, so I completely understand what he has to go through in terms of getting ready for a broadcast. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. So you can add the Spectrum Center covering Spurs Hornets to the list of stadiums I've conquered. I haven't hit the college scene here yet. That's going to change next season. That is going to change. I've seen Reunion Arena in Dallas before they tore it down. I've actually seen NRG. Haven't been in it, but I've seen it. I've seen NRG Stadium.
You'll love it.
Oh, I can't wait.
Great place.
Because look, if the chance ever comes up to call a game at NRG, you're my first call. Like, you bring your family down to Houston, and you come in this booth with me. Period, point blank.
I'll be on the first thing smoking. Man, I could tell you right now. I know wifey will be smiling. After I tell her the next phone call will be to my father. It's like, yeah, Dad, guess what? I'm gonna be in NRG calling the game. What? I know that would light his world up.
I think your dad, if my dad were still here, God rest his soul, I think your dad and my dad would be in one of the suites, just chatting it up, watching us do our thing together. Your wife and my wife, same thing. They'll be in one of the suites. Everybody will be in one of the suites while we're doing our thing, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's just it's time to show some love to the folks that don't get it a lot. Women's basketball being at the top of my list. Women's athletics, period, being at the top of my list. Folks like you with your fabulous show on the daily that precedes this one, and also my other show, the Daily BS, and the one that we team up together, the Crossover. And folks, the Crossover is going to be a happening basketball show. You just watch, especially with a certain event in the NBA supposed to be happening on May 8th. More on that on a later date. But it's just time we just showed some love to a lot of people. Women's basketball, women's athletics needs to be one of them. They just need to be one of them, period.
You know, a lot of people, when you talk about women's athletics, especially basketball, it's almost as if they want to talk to you as if it's like a yeah, but type of thing.
Yep.
You know, it's like, you know, women do play, they do play an exciting brand of basketball. They do. You know, and when I honestly give an assessment as to when people say, well, why isn't the women's game as popular professionally?
Yes.
Why isn't it as popular as men's? I always say, look, the professional basketball fan, they are wowed by the athleticism. And the athleticism with the women's game is far different. It's not that it's worse. It's not that it's bad. It's just different.
It is.
Because you know, men are taught to go to the hole hard and dunk. Women are taught to be more fundamentally sound.
Absolutely.
They just are.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just how they're taught. And in a lot of ways, the women's game is better to watch than the men's game because it is more fundamentally sound.
Mm-hmm.
It would probably make the late John Wooden smile. That's the way women's basketball is played.
It'd make the late Dean Smith smile. Let's go there. Dean Smith would have a smile on his face. John Thompson would have a smile on his face.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Guy V. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Sound familiar? Guy V. Lewis will be smiling from ear to ear, from one side of Houston to the other. Same reason.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, when I hear guys say, well, I can't watch women's basketball because I need to see one dunk. Well, okay, well, they do have some women who do dunk.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm not gonna watch it anyway.
I'll watch it,
dude.
I'll watch it.
You're missing out on the fact that basketball is really supposed to be played the way women do it.
Yes.
It's actually supposed to be played that way. That is how basketball is supposed to be played. And I'm not saying this to blow smoke. I'm saying it because I got a chance to watch I wasn't converted as a women's basketball watcher because I saw it in the mid 80s and late 80s. I wasn't converted until the mid 90s when the WNBA was born, and I got a chance to see the Houston Comets. And then after, when I saw the other teams tune in WNBA at the time, I was like, you know what? This is something else. I like this. It's much different. It's not the penetration fest.
No,
you know,
it's a fundamentally sound game. It's a fundamentally sound game. And I actually heard this argument that women's athletics will not get the same kind of love and the same kind of financial support that men's athletics do in colleges because people don't want to watch it. Well, I have two responses. A, you're missing out. And B, that's a load of baloney. That's a load of baloney.
Very much so. Very much so. Very much so. I mean, the reason why I say that it is not that way for college women's athletics, because it's a shame that it's that way for professional realm.
Yes.
And because those women get grossly underpaid.
Gross.
And I say the union does them horrible. The union does them as horrible as the NFL union does.
Yes. Yes.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Look, and that's you exactly knew where I was going. That's a conversation for another time before the 2020 season kicks off. You know we have to have that. You know we have to have that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. But you mean to tell me that the interest in just in the college realm, you mean to tell me the interest isn't there? I live in a state where the greatest coach, not greatest women's coach, not greatest basketball coach, the greatest coach that ever existed in this state was Pat Summitt. The greatest Tennessee coach of any athletics whatsoever.
Who has the floor name? Who has the floor named after her? By the way, folks.
Yes, the floor is named after her. Yes.
Yep.
The floor with the men's game.
Yes.
is played as well.
Yep.
Is named after her.
Yep.
And rightfully and deservedly so.
Right. Let's see. Pat Summitt, Gino Auriemma, Kay Yow.
Wonderful guy.
North Carolina.
Yes.
Kay Yow, North Carolina State. Okay. The one who just hung
Vivian
Muffet
Springer.
McGraw. Muffet McGraw. Who just said, I'm calling it a career. Muffet McGraw put Notre Dame women's basketball on the map. And you mentioned another one, C. Vivian Stringer. You mean to tell me they don't deserve the same kind of love that the men do? Baloney.
And then when they argue the point that someone like a Becky Hammond, who's on the precipice of becoming an NBA head coach, shouldn't, simply because
she's going to be a coach. Okay,
that is a bunch of crap. Not her not be on the sideline, but for her to be argued that she shouldn't be. She has every right to be.
I've always
every right to be on the sideline.
I've always thought like this, and this has been true since I was a child. If you can do the job, you deserve the job. Man or woman. If you can do the job, you deserve the job. One of my favorite women's basketball announcers, or one of my favorite female announcers, Beth Mowens, had the pleasure of meeting her in Chicago. Just as down to earth as any of the others I've met over the years. I'd love to team up with her and do a game. I'll just sit back, observe, and learn. Because even though I got many years in the game, there are so many different personalities in the broadcast game. You know this as well as I. There are so many different personalities in the broadcast game that the women just need to be shown love the same way the men do. And I already mentioned an underrated voice. Who did work for CBS for many years, Frank Lieber, whose life was unfortunately taken in '84 due to diabetes.
Yeah,
which shocked me. And also woke me up. It also woke me up.
Yeah. It's past time. It's past time.
Yes.
That women's athletics in general and women's basketball in particular. It needs to be put front and center.
And not just on the 4-letter network either.
No.
All right. If you want me to go all the way there, and you already know my disdain with that 4-letter network, let's go all the way there. Not just on the 4-letter network either. Should women's athletics be showcased? Why don't you do it like the way they do it back in the mid-90s? And you televise the women's Final Four, and you put 3 letters behind it. And those 3 letters are CBS.
And you mean to tell me that they can't garner revenue from that game?
Baloney.
From the game itself? Man.
Imagine CBS doing the women's Final Four in Chicago, which is the right move, by the way. Which is definitely the right move. You bring in some of the best from the 4-letter network that call games there and say, hey, we'll give you a 3-day contract and we'll pay you a bunch of bucks to put these women on the map. And I had a chance to cover the beginning of the career of one of the best women's basketball players I've ever seen play. Does the name Elena Deladon mean anything to you?
Only the best women's game player today.
I mean, I'll give you one other name. Does the name Candace Parker mean anything to you? Saw her at Naperville Central, saw her at Tennessee, had a chance to. I'm going to get Candace Parker on this program. I'm going to get Elena Deladon on this program. In fact, what I'm going to do, and my wife's going to help me compose a press release about this program, your program, everything the folks are doing at RTF Sports, and the other networks that syndicate this particular show and my production company, Snowman Digital Media, we're going to show some love to those ladies. I'll spearhead this. I'll spearhead this.
Do. Yeah, I mean, look, just between just those two, Deladon and Candace Parker. I mean, the game is in great shape.
The game's
there's just no
excuse.
It's just no excuse for them to not have the proper focus.
Right. Right. And matter of fact, let's go back to it's. If you want to call them meager beginnings of the WNBA, so be it. But there was a young lady by the name of Cynthia Cooper who I loved watching.
Man, the best women's basketball player I've ever laid eyes on. And to me, one of the greatest basketball players I've ever seen.
I agree with that.
Do it.
You want a fantasy 3-point contest? Cynthia Cooper, Stephen Curry.
Look, that woman has forgotten more basketball than any of us will ever know. That is how good she is.
Yep.
And I bet now, and she's like in her 50s now. I bet now she could probably destroy half of the NBA now.
Yeah. With her eyes closed.
Yeah.
and a little love for she's long since departed, Kim Peratt, Cynthia Cooper's teammate.
Yes, I miss her. Yeah.
I think it was brain cancer that took her life. I want to be sure. It was brain cancer. And every time, and I remember Cynthia Cooper showing love to Kim Peratt. Every time she made a basket, she held up the number 10. She signaled the number 10 every time. Rebecca Lobo, Tina Thompson. How about Teresa Weatherspoon, one of the WNBA pioneers? Lisa Leslie, another WNBA pioneer.
Man.
How about Van Chancellor?
Great guy. Met him. Great guy.
How about Van Chancellor?
That guy knows his basketball. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great guy.
Yep.
Knows the game, and is one of the most personal people you'll ever know.
Indeed.
Great gentleman.
And Tamika Catchings, who I am pining to get on this program as soon as possible, a Hall of Famer.
Oh man!
And I love Tamika. I love watching Tamika Catchings play, and she's very, very personable. I had so many off the court conversations with her, and now I want to get her on this program. So yeah, if it sounds like I'm putting some plans in place, you better believe it.
The questions I would ask her. Wow.
You and I both, man. You and I both. You know, and all she's done for the Indiana Fever, just to enhance the fact that Indianapolis is a basketball town. There are two people that has made Indianapolis a basketball town since the 80s. Reggie Miller and Tamika Catchings.
Yeah, they can write their own ticket in Indianapolis.
They could do anything. They could do anything they want in Indy. It's like you said, they can write their own ticket with no problem.
No problem whatsoever.
None. I mean, you mean to tell? We all know the ticket Michael Jordan can write for the city of Chicago. Him, Scottie Pippen, Phil Jackson, all those guys. Steve Kerr, who's the Warriors coach. Steve Kerr, John Paxson. Okay, and what do Paxson Kerr have in common? A championship-winning shot, 4 years apart. 1993 for Pax, 1997 for Kerr. And again, I'm reminded of, I believe it was Matt Guokas, 1997, after Kerr hit that championship winner. Matt Guokas said, and I'll borrow from you, quote, well, the question was, would Stockton come to double Michael Jordan? Stockton came, Steve Kerr, reminiscent of John Paxson in 93. Close quote.
Talk about an underrated color guy.
Yes. Who knew the game.
Matt Kukas was an underrated color guy. Yes, and he knew the game very well.
And here's something that a lot of Philadelphia folks know, and and I know this because my first favorite team was the 76ers. You know who he studied under? Billy Cunningham.
Billy Cunningham. Talk about an underrated coach and brilliant basketball mind.
Billy Cunningham.
I mean, this guy with the team that he had, he brought the Sixers to 3 championships in 4 years. Well, three finals in 4 years.
3 world championship appearances. Finally got it in 83.
In 83. Mm-hmm.
In the Forum. Okay, and this is where I take my obligatory shot at LeBron James. You know how Julius Erving and LeBron James are separated from each other? Folks, Julius Erving did something LeBron has not done. That's clinch a world championship with something as fundamental we like to call a jump shot. And you know, I know the folks at the Bron Sixers are going to come out and they go, well, what about 2013? Yeah, Ray Allen saved that.
Oh, gosh.
Ray Allen saved that with a fundamental thing we like to call a jump shot.
Speaking of fundamental thing that we would like to call a jump shot and saving, folks, people actually had the audacity, the temerity, the unmitigated gall to put forth that Kerr shot and say, so you mean to tell me you talk about Kyrie and Ray Allen saving LeBron, but Steve Kerr didn't save Michael Jordan? To which I responded, okay, yeah, that was a championship-winning shot, but correct me if I'm wrong. When Kerr took the shot, the Bulls were up 3 games to 2, not down 3 games to 2. They were up.
Yep, they were up 3 games to 2.
Which means Kerr hits the shot, they win. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was a guy who had the number 2 and 3 who set up that earlier with the penetration, and he made it on a shot. But he was the guy who made the assist, right? So
yep, he was the guy who trusted Steve Kerr. This is something. Okay, since we're going there, this is something LeBron does not do. Listen, this is something LeBron does not do, and I've said this on this program. LeBron doesn't trust his teammates. Michael Jordan did.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan trusted his teammates because anybody who saw the behind the scenes, Michael looked right at Steve Kerr, didn't take his eyes off him, and he started his sentence by saying, if Stockton comes off, and Steve Kerr finished it, said, I'll be ready.
I'll be ready. Mm-hmm.
You think Michael and Steve Kerr weren't in sync?
Right. So apparently this was framed as Jordan was saved by someone else. I figured you would get a huge kick out of that because I did too. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, yeah, go back and study, please.
Which they don't. You know that as well as I do, which they don't.
Yeah. I'm like, Jordan set that up earlier in the game.
Jordan set that up by he set that up by trusting him.
Yeah, he trusted Kerr, and he knew Stockton would double. So, yeah. I'm like, good Lord, people don't study basketball. But I digress.
They really don't study basketball. They really don't study basketball. Here's something that, you know, it gets on my nerves when people say, you know, Mark Jackson deserves a shot at a coach. He had one.
Mm-hmm.
He blew it.
And he was good, but
Steve Kerr pushed the right buttons, okay? Let's just
Yeah.
And here's let's bring this into play. You want to go there? Let's go there. You know, people tried to make that a race issue. I know you've heard the rumblings when it came to Mark Jackson versus Steve Kerr.
They still do. 6 years later, they still think it's a race thing.
Yes.
But, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the example that Mark Jackson displayed when he wasn't going to state and he got summarily fired, although his team improved year to year, he forgot to do something called managing up. Now, you can manage down and treat your players fine, but if you're going to treat the organization who hired you like garbage,
you deserve to go.
You're going to end up
on the unemployment line.
You're going to end up on the unemployment line and possibly in the garbage. That's exactly what happened to Mark Jackson.
Yep, and that's why he'll never get another. That's why he will never get another shot at a coaching job. And this is not to slight Mark Jackson as a coach.
No,
it's to
slight. I like the guy.
Look, Mark Jackson would make a fantastic coach if he kept his nose out of other people's business.
Yeah, I like the guy. I like the guy as a coach. I like the guy as a definitely. I like the guy as a color commentator.
Right.
And he was a wonderful coach, but you're the head coach. You got to make sure that everyone is well taken care of.
Yep.
And when you don't do that, you see what happens. And unfortunately, he got a chance to now be on the front row seat, outside looking in, at the team he helped construct be the power of the league the following 5 years. And
there will be more from the Warriors. There will be more from the Warriors, folks. Trust me, there will be more from the Warriors in the next couple of years. Staying on Mark Jackson, people still make it a race issue to this day, him versus Steve Kerr, and people tend to forget the first time Mark Jackson came back to Oracle Arena with the ABC announced team, they gave him a standing ovation. They loved him. They gave him a standing ovation.
Yeah.
But there's one move that Steve Kerr made that Mark Jackson wouldn't make. Steve Kerr told Andre Iguodala, I need you to come off the bench.
Smart move.
And, oh, by the way, folks, it worked.
Smart move. He learned that from Popovich when he was a Spur.
Yep.
And he got a chance to see, to me, one of the best six men to ever do it in Manu Ginobili. Who, let's be completely forthright, the dude is so talented he could have started.
Easy.
But he volunteered to be the sixth man. So Kerr, seeing that, studying from the greats, one is Popovich, of course, the other is Phil Jackson.
Yep.
That was a smart move. That was a smart move to put a guy who was well versed in being a starter, who can give you points and give you defense in Iguodala's case.
Yeah.
Without blinking, without prodding, without even asking.
Nope.
Well, I mean, that was a no-brainer. That was a good decision. Yeah.
And the smartest decision Steve Kerr made to bring Andre off the bench. And
he gets rewarded by being Finals MVP the very year he gets moved to the sixth man.
Yeah, and by the way, Bronzexuals, and I'm going to hand you a layup before we hand this thing off to a break because Dr. K is yelling in my ear, although she's laughing at the same time. I'll hand you this for the Bronzexual confessions. Didn't Andre Iguodala lock up LeBron in every World Championship series they played?
Okay, well, we already know Bronzexuals will come back and say, well, he almost averaged triple-double in 2015.
Yep.
I can't remember if it was 2017 or 2018. He came close to, if not doing so, in either one of those years. And then they would say, well, he blocked his shot in 2016. But the thing I have to say about that is we can tout about the wonderful stats that a guy puts up, but the end result is rings. And if you want an example of this, and I always ask Bronzexuals this, I was like, okay, what do you think about one Jerry West? And the reason why I ask that is Jerry West also has 9 NBA Finals / World Championship Series appearances.
Yep.
Now, unlike LeBron, West was 1-8.
Mm-hmm.
So, and every one that he lost to, save for 2, were to the Celtics.
Yes.
And the other 2 were to the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
So I will put this to the floor for any Bronsexuals. You don't hype this guy to be the greatest of all time, yet he went to 9 appearances in the Ultimate Series.
Yep.
Why should we do the same thing with LeBron James? Because not only does he have 9 appearances in the finals along with West, but West averages 27, 6, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron, 27, 7, and 7. So you mean to tell me that LeBron is the greatest of all time because he averages 1 assist and 1 rebound a game in a career more than Jerry West?
Jerry West, right.
But you don't hype him the same as you do LeBron.
And they never will. And they never
will.
They never will.
Never will.
You know, and Jerry West faced some superior teams. Okay?
Yes.
Let me say that again. The one common denominator between LeBron and Jerry West, they faced some superior teams. And teams always win out, in case you haven't noticed.
Every time. Yeah.
In case you haven't noticed, teams always win out. I mean, Jerry West had to face the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron had to face the Warriors.
Yeah.
Get the parallel there, folks?
Mm-hmm. And when it wasn't them, LeBron faced the Spurs.
Yep.
And West faced the Knicks. So
there you go. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it. And the one time he didn't face the Spurs, one time that LeBron didn't face either the Spurs nor the Warriors, he faced Oklahoma City. The hell's Oklahoma City doing in this?
And it would have been the Spurs that year had it not been for Oklahoma City catching lightning in the bottle that year and bouncing them in the West Conference Finals.
Yep. I got to go to a break. But Cole Johnson joining me here to kick off the show, and it's a hell of a kickoff, folks. You'll hear this on the podcast. Trust me, you'll hear this a few times over. Thanks a lot, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the time, man. I appreciate it as always.
I got some more stuff after I catch my breath. Back in a flash.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair.
He did what? Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
The kick, and here it comes. Swing and a miss! Swing and a miss! Swing and a miss! And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books. The celebration is on. The Washington Nationals are the world champions.
You goddamn blank, staggered black stone, and blinkety black bunker, you trying to do? Of all that low, dirty...
Johnson is three-point territory, but guarded tightly. Johnson cuts left, now fires a three. It is good, and he's fouled. It counts, and he is fouled.
Do you believe it? He did what?
Hour 2. All right. A lot of people know me. Know I am a big fan of women's basketball. And I've been a fan of women's basketball for quite a while. So when I introduced this young lady who was the ACC Tournament most valuable player this past season, and there's just so many records to list, I would just only delay the moment when I am proud to say, please welcome to the program from North Carolina State University and a hopeful WNBA prospect, Ace Koenig. She joins me right now. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing good. Except for the fact that this coronavirus has shut everything down, it's crazy.
I know. It's being cooped up in the house, especially with no basketball to watch, is difficult.
Yeah. How difficult is it? You're a hooper. You've been a lifetime hooper, and there's no basketball on to take your mind off of everything. I know that's got to be tough.
Yeah, we're starting to get creative in the ways we entertain ourselves. You know, there's lots of working out, but doing playing board games and trying to watch as many shows as possible just to get the day going a little bit.
Yeah, it's really, really tough with everything going on. Tell me about this past season for North Carolina State. Very special season for you guys. You're the ACC Tournament champions, and then just when things seem to get on a roll, and this happened to a lot of teams, the coronavirus just shut everything down. I mean, what's that do for your momentum?
We were really excited, especially coming off of that ACC championship, like you said. We just thought we had a lot of potential and a lot of basketball left to play to show off that potential. We were a young team and we were really hitting our stride. So we were super excited to be able to go into the NCAA tournament and hopefully make a deep run. And, we were heading into practice to prepare for the tournament when we found out, and we weren't allowed to practice because the ACC had said, the coaches aren't allowed to host anything. You guys need to go home. But as a team, we decided to stay and hosted our own little practice without the coaches there and scrimmaged for a while to say our goodbyes. And we wanted to have a few moments of Reynolds Coliseum.
I think I know the answer to this question. Was it tough saying goodbye to your teammates with everything being on hold and being up in the air?
Definitely, because you don't really get that same closure. Usually, there's a game and you either coming off a win or a loss, obviously, but you have that travel back, then you have the rest and let go slowly. But instead, it was kind of like campus is closed, everybody needs to go home. You don't get that closure because suddenly everybody is scrambling to get home, and all of a sudden you guys are all in your respective hometowns without really the chance to have had that closure.
Yeah, and the closure has got to be the toughest part. Again, mixing in the season finish, you guys winning the ACC tournament, looking to make a deep run. Your name pops up in the WNBA draft, and you don't get drafted, which kind of disappointed me because I was looking forward to your name being called, but it wasn't called. What would be the next step for you?
It's definitely a different type of scenario than people are used to, especially with pandemic. You don't really have any solid answers right away because you're not sure when you're going to be able to go places and whether or not leagues are going to start up again. So right now we are focusing on finding me the right fit overseas, finding a team where I can really grow that skill set and be ready for whatever opportunity I get in the WNBA when it presents itself. There's always injuries. There's always unfortunate circumstances. And it's just about being physically fit and prepared to take advantage of those opportunities when they come.
One of the best three-point shooters in the ACC, Ace Koenig, joining me right now. Who are some of the players that you look up to in terms of how you shaped your game?
There's so many fantastic players. I actually grew up in a family of basketball players, so my very first role models were my aunts and my uncles and my mother and father. So those were the very first people before I even really knew how big a sport basketball was when I was just a little kid. Those are the people I got to watch day in and day out play basketball and do well at it. So they would have to be my first role models. And then beyond that, you look to the pros. Obviously, the greats like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi definitely would shape that. But I'd have to say my all-time favorite basketball player would have to be Magic Johnson.
Wow. That's a role model. You mentioned two others, Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi. What do you take from their games, and what do you take from Magic's game to shape into yours?
Sue is the type of, and Diana are players that know how to win and will do anything to win. And it's that fieriness and that dedication to the game that I get from them and their performances. And then obviously Magic, just having fun with it. He was the most exciting player. I did personally get to watch him. I was a little young, but being able to look back on his games and when they air them on TV, he was just the most entertaining person to watch. You could never guess where he was going or what he was thinking. And that's what made basketball fun at a young age. And I think that he would just shape me and showing me that it's about enjoying yourself too.
Are there any NBA players that you look at now to try to get a little bit more help in shaping your game? You look at all of these fantastic players. You look at Steph Curry and LeBron James and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and they're all fantastic. But at this point in my life, I'm trying to emulate the greats on the women's side more so than anyone. And right now, if I had the opportunity to play underneath some of these fantastic female players in the WNBA, the Courtney Vandersloot, the Sue Birds, that would be the most exciting thing for me because, I'm trying to be where they are, and they've shown day in and day out that they deserve to be there. One of the players you mentioned is a player that I used to cover for the Chicago Sky, Courtney Vandersloot, a very, very, very good shooter. But if you could have a one-on-one with a WNBA player of your choice, or three separate games with three separate WNBA players, who are those players and why?
I would have to say it had to be Diana, just because she's going to beat me. She's too good. But being able to play defense against her, learn and study what she's doing from actually being in that moment, that would be so incredibly exciting. It's kind of like when people say they would go and play one-on-one against Kobe or Michael Jordan, and they'd lose every time, but they made them better. That's something that I would relish.
Man, it's great to have you. Ace Koenig, one of the sharpest shooters in women's basketball. Man, if you hadn't had a chance to see her play, look up some highlights, and I am personally looking forward to following your journey wherever it takes you and hopefully brings you back to the WNBA. Thanks a lot for coming on. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Got more stuff for you, folks. Stick around.
Snowman in the morning. Where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
So, I have... What? Try again. 3, 2, 1. So, I have spoken to a lot of people about the recent happenings we like to call the NFL draft. And a couple people commented it kind of feels like a game because we haven't had any live games in a while. William Morgan, who's a Saints fan and the man in charge of the Sports Report, now joins me. How are you, brother?
Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming back, number one. Number two, did the draft feel like it was like sports was back in a way for you?
It did. And I also like the way they made it sort of kind of personal by going into the people's homes. I like that too.
Yeah, I really like that. Let's begin with your Saints, the kings of the NFC South. What?
Man,
I don't even have to complete. I don't have to complete the question to know your response to it because we talked on and off Friday night.
Mm-hmm. Man, the only thing I can think of with that first pick, the only thing I can think of they even made that pick happen, we got killed up the middle by the Vikings in that one playoff loss that we had at the end of the season. So, and Larry Warford, it looks like his time is coming up with us. So I'm even maybe looking at a trade, and that he will be his replacement, because he will be either you just signed Pete back, so you can't cut Pete. Can't cut penalties, Pete. So it looks like it's going to be Larry Walford, who's probably either traded or let go, in my opinion, because his play had declined. Seriously declined. So that's my opinion. Now, I do like what we did by trading up to address the need.
Yeah. To
get the linebacker that we so-called that we need, that we covered it so badly.
Yes.
But the thing that kills me, Sean Payton and this LSU shit. Patrick Queen was right there.
Yes, he was.
He was right there. And I don't know what it is.
And
rumor has it.
And y'all didn't get him. Patrick Queen was right there.
He was right there. Do you remember? You remember Katrina?
Yes.
And what I'm thinking, the reason why Peyton hates LSU so much is because LSU would not let the Saints use their practice facility during Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
So from that point forward, if you look back, they haven't. The last LSU person we drafted or player we drafted was Devery Henderson. From that point forward, no players from LSU.
None.
So, and I don't know what we're doing in the third round. I mean, Troutman, he didn't perform well in the combine. He didn't even look like an average athlete in the combine. Maybe Peyton feels he can coach him up or whatever. He looks great against low-level competition, but I don't know what that turnaround means when he goes up against NFL defenses. And then round 7. Bruh, Tommy Stevens, the man has thrown 202 passes in his college career.
Yep.
You make him the number 7. Moss was still, Randy Moss's kid was still on the board at that point.
Thaddeus Moss was still there.
Yeah, you could have took Thaddeus in the 3rd instead of Troutman if you're looking for a project. I don't know. I know Bleacher Report had Troutman. I know Bleacher Report second had Troutman rated kind of high because a lot of people are saying he's like a poor man's George Kittle. But
that can't be because there's only one George Kittle, and Marcus Williams got a face full of him up close and personal in the Superdome last year.
Yeah. So I don't know what the Saints are doing, man. I don't know. The only thing, maybe trading Wolford, or we can get the compensatory pick for Carolina for Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe that's something that's in the works. Maybe the front office can find a gem in the rough. But outside of that, after the first 2 picks, man.
I read some of your complaints on social media. Meanwhile, the team that I follow and have loved for many years, the 49ers, to say the least, were quite busy.
That team, you let go of Breida. But you did pick up Trent Williams.
Yep.
And then you trade Godwin.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
I'll tell you exactly. I'll tell you exactly what they're doing. I will tell you exactly what they're doing. Godwin's use ran out in San Francisco, and I hate saying that because I love seeing him play. But now you see what kind of offense the 49ers have put together, especially now with Joe Staley retiring and Trent Williams coming in. Breida played himself out. Same with Godwin. Now, I hate saying that about Godwin and Breida because I was the biggest fan of Matt Breida when he came to San Francisco. But when you can't hold on to the ball and you can't stay healthy, and you're on a team that's going to be beyond competitive for a long time, and basically Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman ran Breida out of town. They ran him out.
And that's true too. That's true too. And also, they did pick up 2 receivers in the draft, so maybe that's why
Juwan Jennings out of Tennessee. They snatched him. They snatched Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State, and Ayuk is a poor man's John Taylor. And anybody who remembers the 49ers from back in the day remembered the sneaky talent John Taylor had. So now you get you get Debo on one side, Ayuk on another. Remember, Jalen Hurd is still in the wings because he was injured last year with a back injury. And I just don't see the 49ers parting with a 6'6" wide receiver that can run routes and is hand strong and very strong the way Jalen Hurd is. I'm excited to see how this offense blends together. But I will say, do not be surprised if the 49ers pick up one more running back who wasn't drafted, that insert him into that system, and he's going to be dangerous.
Yeah. The team that gets me that I have no idea what they're doing are the Green Bay Packers. What in the world
Jordan Love
are you doing?
Jordan Love?
What are you doing? Everybody's got to have an heir apparent, and I get that. I understand that.
Yeah.
But at the same point, they didn't draft not one single receiver.
None. I guess they're depending on Devontae Adams, and Devontae Adams got shut down in Santa Clara last January when everybody said, listen, let's go back to the NFC Championship game. The 49ers were an unproven commodity going into that championship game in terms of playoff games for a while.
Yes.
I understand that. The Packers were a proven commodity with everyone that's come through Green Bay in the past 5 years. I understand that. But at the same time, I don't think the Packers took the 49ers seriously.
That might have been the case.
And no one's taking the 49ers seriously again with all the moves they've made. They weren't dangling. If you read the reports, and I know you did, you do a great job with the sports report. It was put out there that the 49ers were willing to trade Dee Ford and Quan Alexander for picks. No, they weren't going to do that. If you believe that, a big-time smoke screen. A big-time smoke screen. They're going to sign them to long-term deals because those were 2 of the heavy hitters in that defensive lineup. And now, with the 49ers snatching DeForest Buckner's heir apparent in Javon Kinlaw, you get 4 first-rounders across the front line again. Everybody returns healthy, and that savage defense can become even more savage.
Yep. Exactly. I want to tell you another team that I was impressed with in the draft. That's the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes.
Really impressed with what they did in this draft. Oh, my goodness. Queen is right there. Dobbins. Oh, man. Duvernay from Texas. Very, very happy with what they did in the draft.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins is going to be a monster. And now you give Lamar Jackson the running back that he needed. He needed it last year, and he didn't have it.
Nope. I mean, now you give him somebody that can actually go out there, catch passes, be nimble in space. Look, I miss Mark Ingram, don't get me wrong, but nimble in space is something he's just not. And the Ravens really needed that. And for them to get that in round 2 and be a playoff team, they did it right.
Yeah, they really did.
They really did.
Besides
really
the Packers,
what they did.
Besides the Packers, no. Let's just get the big old elephant in the room. That of course Rob Gronkowski is now in Tampa, along with Tom Brady, and everybody who thinks they're a Buccaneer fan says that the Buccaneers will A, win the NFC South. I say not. And B, are Super Bowl contenders. And I say not. I'm sorry, but two big problems I see with Tampa Bay. One, they haven't shored up their secondary. And two, and they still haven't addressed this, they don't have a running game. Not a consistent one.
Yeah. You hit the nail right on the head. I am not a Ronald Jones fan at all. He'll have a big week every other week. But I'm not a big Ronald Jones fan at all. It was nice to see that they did try to shore up their offensive line somewhat. Their offensive line last year was terrible.
It was porous. It was absolutely porous.
Yep. And to see them trade up to address that somewhat was very, very good. But I'm still not a Ronald Jones fan. I think the secondary is still leaky. And Brady's not the most nimble of foot back there. He can move around a little bit, but I don't think he has it anymore. I said it when it first happened. I think they'll make the playoffs, maybe get to the second round, and that'd be about it.
If they get to the second round, I'll be surprised. Do you count them as a playoff team? Absolutely, because you got one of the greatest ever to do it. But at the same time, if they don't fix the problems that's in front of them, what good is this 2-year deal going to do? Yeah.
And plus another thing, you can't count on Rob Gronkowski to be healthy the whole year either.
Right. You can't.
He's got injury history.
You can't count on Rob Gronkowski to be George Kittle. I'm sorry, but Gronkowski was the best tight end in the NFL for a number of years, but now you got folks like Travis Kelce and George Kittle that have supplanted him. They've supplanted him.
Yep.
Yeah. William Morgan of the Sports Report joining me for his quick breakdown of the Saints draft. I plan to have him on later in the week, and yes, we're going to get some hoop talk in because there are a few things happening with the NBA. We're going to talk about that later in the week. Thanks a lot, my friend. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Got some more stuff for you, folks. Stick around.
Snowman in the Morning.
Hadouken!
Where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Now, I've had a ton of great guests on this show in the almost 7 years that it's been active. But I want to tell you something. This next guest that I'm bringing to you guys has a history all its own. From Kansas City, Missouri, the home of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, please help me welcome Mr. Bob Kendrick, the president and the man in charge, and he's on the other side of the hotline right now. It is an honor, sir.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Tell me tell me about the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum and how you became the president thereof. I am excited to hear this story.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is an interesting story in its own right because I started here at the Negro Leagues Museum as a volunteer way back in 1993.
Wow.
Who knew? I had no idea that it would lead to one of the most gratifying career opportunities for me that I think I could have ever embarked on. I got introduced to the museum. The museum itself started in 1990, so we're celebrating 30 years as an organization this year. And we started in a little one-room office across the street from where the museum currently operates in a building called the Lincoln Building, the historic Lincoln Building, tiny little one-room office. And at that time, Brian, you had a number of Negro Leaguers, local Negro Leaguers who were still with us. And, man, they literally took turns paying the monthly rent to keep that little office. And, of course, with it, our hopes and dreams of one day building a facility that would pay rightful tribute not only to one of the great chapters in baseball history, but as now thousands of people each year are discovering one of the greatest chapters in American history. Mm-hmm. And so I'm working at the Kansas City Star, the daily newspaper at that time, and I'm the senior copywriter in the Star's promotions department, which functioned as its in-house advertising agency. And I drew the assignment of promoting the museum's first ever traveling exhibition. That exhibition debuted in 1993 in a little storefront space right across the street from the museum. It is still touring the country today. As a matter of fact, it is on display at the Yogi Berra Museum right now. And of course, like most of everybody in this country, they're closed down due to the coronavirus, but it's still touring. And we had some tremendous success. During the month of August of 1993, we drew some 10,000 people who came down to see that exhibition. And I think at that point, the officials here knew that we had something special. And the success of that promotional campaign that we did prompted them to ask if I would join their board of directors, which I did. And I served on the board for 5 years in a volunteer role, doing a lot of the marketing, PR, community relations, advertising things for the museum as a volunteer. And in 1998, I became the museum's first ever full-time director of marketing. And I served in that role for about 10 years. And then I left briefly in 2010 and came back in April of 2011 to become the museum's president. And now I'm in my 9th year as president of this great institution. So, as I mentioned, it has been one of the most fulfilling, gratifying things I think I could have ever done. I considered myself to be a baseball fan. And, man, here was this entire chapter of baseball in American history I didn't have any idea about. And I just fell in love. I fell in love with the story, and I fell in love with the amazing athletes who made this story. And I just wanted to learn as much as I could. And you know what, Brian? I wanted everybody else to know. I didn't want to keep it to myself.
Right.
Yeah, I wanted everybody else. I was hoping everybody else would be as excited and would feel the same way about this history as I did. And then, as I tell people all the time, I met the late, great Buck O'Neil.
Oh,
and I tell people, once you're bitten by the Buck bug, it's a wrap. You just want to be on Buck's team. And so I feel so incredibly blessed that I got to travel all over this country with my dear friend Buck O'Neil, and while he was out there preaching the gospel of the Negro Leagues and the virtues of this museum to any and everybody who would listen, and I was there for the ride, man. And what an incredible ride it was. And now I get to carry on in his footsteps. I've picked up the baton from him and trying to make sure that people are aware of this history, that the legacy of the Negro Leagues will play on long after there are no more Negro League players alive to attest to the greatness of these leagues.
And it's so incredible that you share that story. And I have always been of the vote that Black History Month doesn't just occur in February. It occurs every month.
No.
And the Negro Leagues are just a small proponent of that. Here's a piece of knowledge that a lot of people don't get. I understand. I mistakenly used the word understand. Here's a piece of knowledge a lot of people don't realize. That's the correct word I need. Kansas City has kept homage to the Negro Leagues by their name. The Kansas City Monarchs became the Kansas City Royals. And they stay within that realm. In fact, for a while in the majors, there was a day where certain teams would pay homage to the Negro Leagues by wearing their uniforms.
Yeah. And they still do. They still do. The cities that had significant Negro Leagues history, places like Pittsburgh, Detroit, Atlanta, Cleveland, of course, here in Kansas City, they still do annual salute to the Negro Leagues.
Yep.
And that's something that we are genuinely excited about and appreciative of, because what it is doing now is introducing a modern fan base to the history and heritage of our sport. You know, with this year being the centennial, the 100th anniversary of the birth of the Negro Leagues, formed right here in Kansas City in 1920. And of course, the great Kansas City Monarchs were one of the original 8 teams that helped form the Negro Leagues in 1920.
Yes, indeed.
And so this was a really pivotal year for us. And we're hoping that we can salvage as much of this year-long centennial celebration that we were planning, you know, after we move beyond this coronavirus situation that we're all enduring right now. And so, but yeah, no, it's always wonderful to see the current day athlete put on that Negro League uniform.
Yeah.
And to wear those pants up high, like they did in the Negro Leagues, and wear them a little baggy like they did in the Negro Leagues, man, and maybe tilt that cap a little bit.
Maybe tilt the cap a little bit, yeah. Just to keep that time-honored tradition of the Negro Leagues alive in the way that the uniforms were worn. And I've seen lots of film on it. I've seen lots of pictures on it, but it's nothing like seeing the homage being paid live. And I've had a chance a couple of times to see it with my beloved Chicago White Sox when they donned the Chicago American Giants jerseys.
Yeah. They do a great job in Chicago as well. And of course, every year now they do the Double Duty Classic, named for the late, great Ed Double Duty Radcliffe. And for those who may not have heard that name before, you know, number one, they had great nicknames in the Negro League.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, if you didn't have a great nickname, you probably weren't a good player.
Right.
And the great Ted, the great Ted Double Duty Radcliffe earned his nickname Double Duty when the great sports writer Damon Runyon saw Duty catch a Satchel Paige shutout in the first game of a doubleheader, pulled off the catcher's gear, took the mound, and threw a shutout in the second game of the doubleheader, and said he was worth the price of 2 admissions. He was nicknamed Double Duty. He was nicknamed Double Duty until the day he died at age 103 in Chicago in 2005. And Duty was one of the great characters in the Negro Leagues. Man, he would inscribe on his chest protector, "Thou shalt not steal."
Right.
Yeah, he was as colorful as they can.
Oh, man. 2005 is unfortunately when he passed away. And in 2005, all my Chicago fans know my Southside White Sox won it all that year. So it was a celebration all the way around, not just of Double Duty.
Kenny Williams.
But
Kenny Williams, who was the GM of the White Sox at that time.
Yes, indeed.
And Yeah, we honored him with the Rube Foster Award. Rube Foster's another guy who lived and died in Chicago.
Yes.
He was from Calvert, Texas, but Rube Foster formed the Negro Leagues here in Kansas City in 1920. And so our Executive of the Year Award is named for Rube Foster. And so Kenny is named the Rube Foster Award. And I'll never forget, he stood, when he accepted that award, he looked dead into the eye of Buck O'Neil and said, "We will bring the World Series champion White Sox to the Negro Leagues Museum next year."
Yes.
He delivered on his promise. He delivered on his promise. They are the first and only Major League team to bring all of their players.
Yep.
Now, we've had a number of players visit the museum, but never had we had an entire team. And Kenny fulfilled his promise to Buck O'Neil. And I'm sure there were some guys who didn't really want to come.
Yeah.
They didn't want to get out of bed and come down and do it. But once they were here, they were blown away. And one of my favorite memories, Jose Contreras, who was on that club.
Yes.
From Cuba.
Yep.
From Cuba.
Yep.
When he walks into the museum, and we have what we call the Field of Legends, which features 10 life-size statues of Negro League greats who are in position, cast in position as if they were playing a game, and they represent the first group of Negro Leaguers to be inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the guy who is at the plate batting was his fellow countryman, the great Martin Dehigo.
Yes.
Now, Martin Dehigo nicknamed El Maestro,
Yep.
the master.
Yes.
Because he could do it all.
Yep.
Played all 9 positions, played all 9 of them well. He is the only baseball player in the history of this sport to be enshrined into 5 different countries' baseball halls of fame.
Yep.
This brother is in the Mexican, Cuban, Venezuelan, Dominican, and in Cooperstown. And so when he walked in and saw his fellow countrymen standing proudly at the plate, he lit up. He lit up because I can be honest, you can't come out of Cuba and not know the name Martin Dehigo.
Right.
He was that good. But I don't know if he realized that he had played in the Negro Leagues, and that was probably the last person he expected to see when he walked in the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. So now you've instantly bridged that gap because the Negro Leagues opened its doors to any and everybody.
Yes.
They didn't care what color you were, man.
Right.
All they cared was, can you play?
Can you play baseball? Absolutely.
That's it.
Can you play? And Jose Contreras is one of my favorite pitchers on that team. The fearsome force of Contreras,
man, he had
Burley.
that Negro League swag.
Oh, yeah. Contreras, Burley, Garland, Freddie Garcia, the fearsome foursome. But what scared me about Contreras, and someone asked me this, if you could pick a pitcher that you did not want to face, for me, it'll be Jose Contreras, and here's the reason. I loved when he threw that fork ball, but I would hate it when it became an out pitch against me.
Yeah. It was nasty. It was nasty.
Anybody who watched Jose Contreras, he was good when he was with the Yankees, but when he got to the White Sox in 2005, it was just on. He figured it out, especially second half of that year, and his fastball wasn't above like 93 or 94, but he knew where to place it. And having A.J. Pierzynski as his catcher was awesome because he got Contreras to use that fastball, and not only use his fastball, but trust his fastball. Because,
and I think that's the thing.
Yeah, because when Contreras came in, he always wanted to throw his forkball, which was nasty in and of itself. But A.J. Pierzynski got in his head and said, you got to know when to use that forkball. So as Ed Farmer said, and God rest Ed Farmer's soul, when he did a post-game interview with Don Cooper after they clinched the pennant in 2005, the fastball became the front pitch, the forkball became the out pitch, and that forkball was nasty.
Well, we had so much fun with them, man. Hawk Harrelson and everybody.
Yeah.
Ozzie Guillen was with us. And you know, when Ozzie left the Negro Leagues Museum, he went out and started really preaching the fact that every Major League team should be required to visit the Negro Leagues Museum. It hit him in such a way. And that makes us all feel good in terms of the work that we're doing and the respect that is given to those players in the Negro Leagues. Man, I tell people all the time, these guys could play.
Yes.
it's this belief that if it didn't happen in the major leagues, then it didn't happen. And we're here to tell you, no, it happened, it happened in glorious fashion.
Oh, yeah, it did. It did. Man, this has been such a delightful conversation. Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm going to just put this out there. One day, I would love an opportunity to do a show from your facility in Kansas City when the time presents itself.
Oh, man, let's do it. When the time is right, you just let me know. We would love to have you here. And we're going to feed you some of that great Kansas City barbecue. I know it.
I'll tell you what, one of the times I was in Kansas City, someone warned me about the barbecue. I said, why are you warning me about the barbecue? Because you won't stop eating it. I said, man, please, I have a game. And I had a game that night. I was covering games for Chicago State University. I said, I have a game. I'm not going to go to Kemper Arena, the venerable Kemper Arena. I'm not going to go to Kemper Arena full on barbecue. The barbecue's not going to do nothing to me. I couldn't have told a bigger lie that night, because when I got to Kemper Arena, and anybody who has eaten any kind of barbecue knows, if you have some real good barbecue, you're going to get sleepy really quick.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I had a barbecue meal, which included, God help me, homemade cornbread, and I had it at a place that was 3 blocks away from Kemper Arena. I said, I'm going to walk this off, and I'm going to be fine. I lied. I got to Kemper Arena. I walked in. I got situated. And the biggest mistake I made, and I'm having fun with this, folks, the biggest mistake I made, I sat down.
It's great stuff, man. And, you know how cities sometimes hype their food, and you find out, well, it's not really as good as they say. No, not with Kansas City barbecue.
Not
it
with
is the
Kansas
real
City
deal.
barbecue at all. Okay.
And this is a special place, so we would love, if ever the opportunity comes for you to do the show from here, man, we would absolutely love it.
Oh man, consider it happening then, folks. When the tour starts, because the tour is being put together, and we need some sponsors for that tour, drop an email to snowmaninthemorning@gmail.com. One of the places that we will stop is the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, but it's in its planning stages right now. We got to get some sponsors, and we got to put it together. That, my friends, is Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. It has been an honor and a delight to have you, sir.
Man, it's been my pleasure. And anytime you want to chat, please don't hesitate. We love this opportunity, and we hope that people will visit our website at nlbm.com to learn more about the museum. And, of course, if you're so inclined, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at NLBMPrez, Prez. And we connected on Facebook. I'm brand new to Facebook. I'm just learning it.
We did.
I'm learning my way around it, but we appreciate the opportunity.
I'd also love for you guys to be an advertiser of this program. I'm a big baseball rat, being from Chicago, and I'd love to have you guys be an advertiser of the program if that's possible.
Well, that's something that we will absolutely take into consideration, and you can send me some information detailing, and we'll take a look at it. And hopefully we won't be experiencing this shutdown much longer. We can get back to the operation of what we do here on a daily basis, and that's get people into this museum. And so,
absolutely.
Hopefully this, like I said, this coronavirus shutdown won't impact us much longer. So, we're looking forward to getting back in the swing of things.
Well, we got our first stop on our planned tour to help celebrate my personal and my company's 25th anniversary in broadcasting, and it'll be at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City. We'll give you all the details once they come together and once all the plans are put in place. Thanks a lot, my friend. I truly appreciate the time.
It has been my pleasure. No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Got more for you folks after this.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy un smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair. He did what? Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the Bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
And that's hit pretty well and pretty deep to left. Gardner is going back, looking up. See you later!
You golden blank staggered black skeleton and blinkety blank bunker, you trying to do of all that low dirty.
Michael on the drive across the lane. Turnaround shot. Got it. 63 for Jordan.
Do you believe it?
Murphy picked out of midair to Amani. Set him up, Roenick. Hartland! 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 Jeremy Roenick! After the giveaway was forced by Amani. What a play by Tony Amani. And Jeremy Roenick fired it home at the 123 mark. And the Blackhawks have come back from the dead in this series.
Hour 3. Now, folks, there are a lot of people that I bring on the show and they're able to talk about their teams. This guy ain't. My good friend Cravante Hurd has jumped on with me, and I promise I didn't do this to make you depressed or upset, my friend.
Oh, man. You know how to press my buttons, man. You know how to press them, man.
How long have we been friends now? 4 or 5 years?
I lost count.
Now, you got all excited all through Instagram, and I remember this, and I was so happy for you. The night the Capitals won the Stanley Cup, I didn't think you could scream that loud.
Nah, I didn't think so either, because honestly, I didn't think it was going to happen. I'm telling you, I didn't think it was going to happen, man.
One of the proud members of the Flex Zone, Cravante Hurd, joining me. Now, I got to ask, how crazy did you go when the Nationals won it all?
Pretty crazy. I went pretty crazy. And I went crazy because since you've known me, I've always talked about there being some type of dark cloud being over the nation's capital as far as sports is related. Because, I mean, if you look at all of our teams, except like as of late, I mean, I'm talking about when we first met each other, like when we first started conversing about sports.
Yep.
At the time, all of our teams were struggling. Like from hockey, I think hockey was doing the best at the time. Basketball was kind of up and down. Football was in the dirt. And baseball was good. Baseball was good, but it's just that we just couldn't get over the hump.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what made the Nationals win so great and so like heartfelt, like almost brought me to tears, because the Nationals have been good for quite some time. But it's just that I felt like every time we ran into the Dodgers or every time we ran into whoever our first opponent was, we would lose. But we were always the favorite because of our bullpen. First of all, we beat the Dodgers. Let me tell you, you understand. I was excited off the back. I'm like, we finally got over the hump.
So excited. I was at work before the pitch before Kendrick lifted the grand slam. I saw they had tied it at 3. I heard Juan Soto's home run thanks to Charlie Slows and Dave Jagler. Because I have that, I have that app on my phone, WJFK, which is the flagship station of the Nationals.
Mm-hmm.
I had my earpiece in illegally, of course, and I was listening to Charlie and Dave take us through the 9th inning and then get to the 10th inning. And Dave was on the call, and I heard him get excited when Kendrick drove that 1-strike pitch over center field. And I was working in a hospital, so I couldn't scream like I wanted to.
Oh.
I couldn't scream. Oh. I had to do something. I had to do it fast. So I went outside and went into my car and let loose for a good 10 minutes. Because I'm a White Sox fan. I'm from Chicago, but I'm also a big fan of the Nats. I've been a big fan of the Nats for a while. When I screamed in my car, a couple of my coworkers, I kid you not, came outside and they saw my car bouncing, and they thought something was going on. They thought something was going on. So unbeknownst to me, security was alerted, and so was my boss.
Get out of town, man. Get out of town, man.
When my boss came to my car, he saw me, pumping my fist, and he told everybody, he's okay. Everybody go back in. He was about to leave. And I looked at my phone. I said, I better get back inside. I got back inside, and he immediately yanked me into the office. He said, I need to see you in my office now. And I'm like, oh, damn, I got busted. I came in the office, closed the door, and he looked at me, and he had this big grin on his face. And he said, you must be listening to a baseball game. I said, I just heard the Nationals beat the Dodgers. He said, thank God. Go back to work.
Oh, my gosh. My gosh.
Now, I hate picking on this guy because he's one of my best friends, folks. But what are y'all going to do about John Wall?
Here you go. You always know. I feel like you do these things on purpose.
Whatever do you mean?
What are we gonna do with John Wall, huh?
John Wall
hasn't played in about 2 going on 3 years. It seems like, and we don't know if the guy's really healthy. So once he gets back to camp, and unfortunately with all the goofiness that's going on in the world and this virus that's going around, we won't know anytime soon, which kind of makes all this worse. And another thing that makes it worse is that Bradley Beal is playing out of his mind.
Yep.
So
and
it's
Bradley Beal, I think, is out of there. I hate to say it.
I think unfortunately, I think he's out of there too, because as soon as he hits the open market, he's going to have suitors.
Oh,
he's going to have a lot of suitors, and I don't know if our front office will want to put more money into him when John Wall is sitting over here and we're not sure what's going on with him.
Right.
It's really we're in like one of the worst positions as an organization in basketball. It's terrible.
Let's talk some more NBA. Cravante Hurd joining me. And I'm going to say this team's name the correct way, so people are going to have to forgive me for being old school, but the Bullets are in deep trouble. The Washington Wizards, a.k.a. the Washington Bullets, are in deep trouble because you got John Wall sitting out for an who knows length of time. Bradley Beal is playing out of his mind, and he's out of there. You got rid of Saransky, who's now with the Bulls, and the Bulls just made a couple of changes in their front office, and they're getting ready to be on the rise. What do y'all do?
First of all, he got fired on his day off.
Yep.
He got fired on his
day off.
He got fired on his day off.
He got fired on his day off. I guess, and I talked about this yesterday on the program, I guess the fans said enough is enough. All right? I guess the fans said enough is enough. But what do you do in Washington? What are y'all going to do?
Man. That's a good question, man. I wish I knew. The only thing we can do is, well, God damn, this is really tough, because it's like the perfect storm for us, perfect situation for us was that John Wall and Bradley Beal would be on the same page on the court at the same time, performing outstanding, and we would have arguably a formidable backcourt. But when one's injured, and it's funny because John Wall's playing well, Bradley Beal was injured. Now it's vice versa.
Reversed.
But Bradley Beal's playing out, but he's playing out of his mind. So unfortunately, we're going to become one of those teams that's going to sink for a couple years because I know they're going to play this wrong. Whatever they do, we're going to end up on the short end of the stick because we're going to end up losing Bradley Beal and we're going to have John Wall, but we're not going to know what we're going to have with John Wall. I know Bradley Beal's out the door.
Yeah, Beal's out of there.
We got to see. We want to hit the draft. We're going to have to hit the draft. The draft is our best option at this point.
Yeah. Now,
and I don't care for that coach either.
We don't have to talk about that.
Nah. I was like, man,
that's obvious.
I don't know. He doesn't bring them to the next level. He doesn't get them to that next level. He's not that guy.
He really isn't. Now, I got another question for you. I put a rumor out there that there would be not one, but two big men available for a certain team in San Francisco, California, that would restart their dynasty. And people think I'm crazy when I put these two names out there. So I want to get your thoughts on this. The two names I put out there, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Karl Anthony Towns.
Yep. You're crazy. Yep, you're crazy. I don't know if that's what you want to hear, but yep, you're crazy.
Why do you think I'm crazy when I say that? Why do you think I'm crazy when Karl Anthony Towns wants out of Minnesota and the Bucks would probably get beaten by Toronto and Giannis wants out of Milwaukee? Why am I crazy?
So I don't think I think Milwaukee will do whatever it takes. Well, they should. That should. Not say they will, because we don't know what they're going to do. Because I mean, hell, didn't they let go Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Lou Alcindor at the time?
I rest my case.
But let's fast forward to the present. They haven't seen any success since that, right?
Yep.
So why would you go back? Why would you go back to doing what put you in the hole for decades? You finally got a generational talent.
Yeah, true.
Why would you let him go? You need to do whatever you can to keep your superstars, because he's not just a great basketball player. He's box office. Folks come to see him. There's a lot of avenues to this business we call basketball. And when a player satisfies, when he checks off more boxes than one, there's more of a reason to keep him.
True.
So, I mean, they shouldn't. Now, to the other guy, Karl Anthony Towns may be out of Minnesota. I agree with you. He may be out of Minnesota. He may be about through with him. Hell, I think Minnesota may be blowing up their team a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna lie to you. So letting Karl Anthony Towns go, and if he gets the fishing around that market, California would look real sexy at the time.
And you know,
anytime.
and you know that management in Golden State are licking their chops to go after him. They're licking their chops to go after him because the Warriors have a top 3 pick in their back pocket. Let's just call it the way we see it. They have a top 3 pick in their back pocket unless a ping pong ball decides to fall through the floor, come back through the ceiling, and tap an executive on the head again, which I don't see happening. The Warriors have a top 3 pick in their back pocket. Who's to say they won't make a trade for Karl Anthony Towns and a couple of second-round picks, rebuild their draft capital, and rebuild their bench, and do the same thing that they did 4 years ago when Kevin Durant surprised everybody?
Sure. I can see that. And I meant you're crazy. This the Greek freak part, because with the goofiness that's going on with Karl Anthony Towns and the Minnesota Minnesota team is like it's getting to a head. It's really getting to a head. Like
it's been at a head. It's been at a head for
mismanaging.
It's been at a head for 2 years. And Jimmy Butler is part of that problem.
Minnesota has been a team that has horribly mismanaged players and known for it.
Kevin Garnett, hello.
Karl Anthony Towns leaving is not far-fetched at all. And if he leaves, now it depends on how he leaves. If he leaves via free agency, that's one thing. But if it's via trade, I don't think Minnesota would do deals with the Warriors.
Oh no.
I don't think so.
People thought the same thing at Oklahoma City 4 years ago.
Well, Oklahoma's one of those cities I didn't think deserved a team. So, whatever. Whatever.
Finally,
give me Seattle back. Give me Seattle back.
Finally, somebody that agrees with me. Can we please, and let's just go to that point next. Can we please bring back the Seattle Supersonics?
I'm saying, man.
What the hell's in Oklahoma besides the Sooners?
Nothing. The Thunder. The Thunder now. That's it.
Did
the only thing. Oh, wait. Who okayed that? Like, who okayed? Yeah, you know what? Oklahoma City. I like it. Who okayed that? What board okayed this?
That was going on for 3 years. Because remember, Hurricane Katrina displaced New Orleans.
Right.
Okay? And Clay Bennett saw his opportunity because for a while, like Kansas City and Omaha shared the Kings, New Orleans and Oklahoma City shared the Hornets. Don't ask me how Oklahoma City fully got in play. I don't know. I really don't know. But be that as it may, it happened. And 2008 saw the end of an era with the Seattle Supersonics, which is why I have about 100 Seattle Supersonic games on my jump drive, but that's another story. I cannot, and I said this on your program, I can't stand the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay? I cannot will not stand OKC.
B Snow, listen. I hate Oklahoma City now. When they first came out, they were very, very exciting. I mean, young team, great players, and they had a great nucleus that if they could have kept them together, could have been a force to be reckoned with in the West and the NBA as a whole.
Give you that.
But because of the mismanagement of their front staff,
have we heard that before?
Their front office, it completely dismantled. Like in the course of 2 to 3 years, that team has been destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Like completely destroyed. And that's when I was like, see, that's why y'all can't have nice things. That's why y'all can't have nice things. And that's how I feel about that. But
you know what really destroyed OKC?
Once James Harden.
You know what really destroyed OKC? And it wasn't even James Harden leaving. James Harden playing that on his own. You know what destroyed Oklahoma City? Losing to Golden State after being up 3-1. It killed them. They haven't been the same since.
But you know what? I think that was the nail in the coffin. I think that might have been like the last strike. I think the first one started when around the James Harden thing. That was probably like the first one. But that was definitely the last one. That was the nail in the coffin. Like, we'll never be able to overcome
that. That was the last straw.
It's kind of like the Seahawks and the Patriots in that Super Bowl.
Malcolm Butler.
Have you noticed that it's only like 2 players from that Super Bowl team that's still on the team?
And one of them is Russell Wilson.
Exactly. And one guy's going to defense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think
it's only two or three guys, something like that.
And as far as the Seattle Seahawks go this year, folks, I hate to say this to my fans in the Pacific Northwest, don't expect anything big, okay? Because until you unseat the 49ers, it's over, all right? And I'm putting this out there. I'm putting this out there too.
Go ahead, say. I think I know what you're about to say. Go ahead.
Nobody's beating San Francisco for a while. Nobody's beaten San Francisco for a while.
Okay, so I wanted to say this. Arizona low-key is coming. Arizona is coming.
You mean the same you mean the same Arizona that lost in heartbreaking fashion twice to Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, I love the fact that they traded for DeAndre Hopkins.
Steal.
It's a steal. It's an absolute steal. But here is the problem, and it's going to be a problem until they decide to fix it. They got the wrong man coaching them.
I can't. Okay. So let me say this. I didn't think he was qualified for that job. when he first got it. I didn't think he was quite qualified to be a head coach. But I think he's teamed up. He's in the perfect situation to succeed because he's teamed up with Kyler Murray. So
I'll give you that.
Them together, they could build a really, really great offense. Young, fast, college-like offense, but with a pro twist.
But they're two sides to the ball.
If they could be patient. If they could be patient.
They've been patient in Arizona. They've been patient in Arizona since Ben Roethlisberger threw a Super Bowl winning touchdown that shouldn't have counted. They've been patient.
Listen. Obviously they're not, because look at Josh Rosen. They weren't that patient. I'm saying on the coaching side of the game, if they're going to be patient, because Kyler Murray, I don't know if he's necessarily one of those quarterbacks where you can put him with anybody and he'll succeed. I think if he's with a young and innovative coach, I think that's where he's going to succeed. He would have had to be with like a Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan, one of those type of offensive minds to thrive.
Hey, you know something? Kyler Murray and Kyle Shanahan. Wow. Imagine those two minds fitting together. But you see, the 49ers already have their quarterback of the future. A couple different plays, and they have 6 Super Bowls. And I will put this out there. They're going to make a couple different plays, and they will have their 6th Super Bowl. But I'll spill that tea later on in the year. But I understand where you're going. While we're talking about the NFC West, it's going to be between the Cardinals and the 49ers. The Rams are done. The Seahawks are... No. Change that. The Seahawks are done. The Rams are worse.
Listen, the Rams did this mess to themselves. They did this to themselves a couple years ago.
They mortgaged the future for a player that didn't give them much. And now Todd Gurley is gone. Brandon Cooks is gone. They mortgaged the future. And I hate saying this, and you and I know a lot of Rams fans. We have a lot of friends in common.
Yep.
And you know I also speak the truth when the tea gets knocked over. I don't spill it. I knock the sumbitch over, okay? Here's the tea I'm going to spill, and it goes like this. They mortgaged their future on a quarterback that hasn't done a doggone thing since the NFC Championship game. They got lucky in New Orleans.
And that's tough because I felt like Jared Goff was not as good as he portrayed. I thought the Rams defense was really, really, really good, and he had some really good weapons around him. But I felt like Jared Goff, he wasn't that guy to put them over the top. He was more so down for the ride, if anything.
Yeah, and you saw it in the playoffs.
Not that guy, I know you feel a certain way about the Seahawks, but I feel like if you put Russell Wilson there, I think Russell Wilson would have put them over the top.
Wrong.
I think he would have put them over the top.
Wrong.
I think so.
I don't.
Jared Goff, no. Russell Wilson, yes.
I don't trust. Look, Russell Wilson is a Seahawk, and he'll be a Seahawk for life, and thank God for that. Put him with the Rams, and it's even worse. Because the management's not in place.
I mean, at the time when the Rams were at their height.
Okay.
Not now.
Okay.
Not now.
Not now.
Can't nobody help the Rams. Can't nobody help the Rams now.
The Rams are going to be under 500.
I'm talking about like when Jared Goff. I'm talking about when they was like in NFC championships and they went to the Super Bowl. I was like, I think Russell Wilson would have got them in that Super Bowl. Would have got them that Super Bowl. Jared Goff, he's not quite there yet, and honestly, I don't think he'll ever be. And he's with Sean McVay.
Yeah. Jared Goff is not that guy. Todd Gurley was not that guy. Todd Gurley was not that guy. Because if Todd Gurley was that guy, he'd have found a way to not only play, but beat San Francisco in their house. And the 49ers held them to 7 points in Los Angeles. And I keep referencing the 49ers because A, they're the defending NFC champions, and B, they got one hell of a defense.
Yes. Even though they let a nice little piece go, but they do still have a very formidable defense.
Solomon Thomas is going to step in great for DeForest Buckner.
I hope so.
That was a money move. That was absolutely a money move because the 49ers are busy stacking up their draft capital like they used to do when they ruled the 80s. But I got a fellow out of South Carolina that could easily step in. When I did my mock draft, and yes, for the first time in my career, in my sports talk career, I did a mock draft. And at 13, I gave the 49ers.
Oh, man, B-So, you should have called me, man. I like doing mock drafts.
We'll do. You know what we'll do before the actual draft? You and I will do one, okay? The person I have mocked for the 49ers is a fella named Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina.
I heard. Yep. I'm very familiar. These linemen. Yep. I'm very familiar.
I am just
He's saying, they're saying like he's right behind Chase. He's behind Chase Young.
Yep. He is a playmaker. Javon Kinlaw. Put Javon Kinlaw on one side and Nick Bosa on the other side.
Ooh. Now, would he be better at end or interior?
I don't know. I don't know. It's
going
to take. It's going to take a couple games.
Derek Brown is out there as well.
Right. It'll take a couple games. I still believe Kinlaw goes to the 49ers, but it's going to take a couple games for them to find out where he really belongs. You knew where Bosa belongs. He's on the edge. You knew where DeForest Buckner belonged.
Come on, baby. You got to know that.
At the same time, they've lined Bosa up inside too, and Bosa just terrorized people. Nick Bosa terrorized people.
In certain packages,
right?
He will give the interior offensive line hell. Hell.
I mean, he scared Aaron Rodgers. All right? How many times can you see a defensive lineman line up outside or inside, frighten the daylights out of Aaron Rodgers? For that matter, let's go down the list of the quarterbacks he terrorized last year. Drew Brees, Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff. We ain't got to say nothing about what he did to Jared Goff. We don't have to say anything about what he did to Russell Wilson in San Francisco or in Seattle.
True. Yeah, he terrorized a lot. But that's what he does. That's the tree that he comes from.
Yeah. Joey Bosa.
That's just what he does.
Here's a thought. He
gets to his spot.
Yeah.
He gets to his spot so fast, and it's like linemen, no matter what, whether they're like faster linemen or like stronger linemen, he has a counter move for everything.
Yep.
And he gets to his spot, like where the quarterback, not necessarily where the quarterback is standing. He gets to like where the arm is, like where the arm is about to release. And get that ball. Like, that's his thing.
Here's a funny here's part of a funny conversation you and I had back in January. We had this off the air. I mean, everybody was so excited to see Kirk Cousins finally win a playoff game. Everybody in Minnesota was so excited, and everybody was so confident with Minnesota going to San Francisco. And then the 49er defense terrorized the Vikings into a 3-and-out. And Jimmy Garoppolo took the 49ers right downfield, 8 plays, 61 yards, and it was 7-0. And you and I both said the same thing. This game is over.
I tell you, Minnesota was probably the only city that was happy because, first of all, they messed up my playoff pool, because
you picked New Orleans
because when they went down there and beat they beat?
They beat New Orleans.
They beat New Orleans, right?
New Orleans.
God dang. Yeah, messed up my football pool. So I think they were the only ones that was happy about that. And then I was like, and I'm telling you, you already know me. I'm very familiar with Kirk Cousins. But I was like, because now they're playing against the 49ers. I was like, that's probably the worst thing that could have happened. Probably the worst thing. And you usually don't say that after a win. But after that one, I was like, this is not good. This not going to be good. It's not going to be good at all.
I actually had someone message me. You're going to love this. I actually had someone message me saying, watch out for Kirk Cousins. And they know I'm a 49er fan. I responded back to this person, are you bleeping kidding me? And he says,
that's what you just said. Shut up.
He posed another question behind it. And the question he posed behind it went like this, and I kid you not, I absolutely kid you not when I got this question. What is the 49er defense going to do to Kirk Cousins? Beat him up was my simple response.
The worst thing that happened to Kirk Cousins is Dalvin Cook going down. That was the worst thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because now it's all on you. Because at least Dalvin Cook is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Very good at the running back position. He could catch. He could do a multitude of things. And he could cover up a lot of things offensively for Kirk Cousins too.
Absolutely.
But when he went down, I was like, oh, it's all on Kirk Cousins. It's a wrap. It's a wrap because I know Kirk Cousins very well. He's not that guy who's going to take your team over the top. He's not a playmaker. He's not that guy. Trust me, as a Redskins fan, I know he's not that guy.
You saw it up close.
Now, granted, his time in D.C. was not all his fault.
No.
But nonetheless, I know what type of guy he is, and he's not that guy. He's not that guy.
He really isn't.
Matter of fact, I'll tell you, B Snow, I'll tell you, I've adopted a new way of evaluating, trying to evaluate players and talent in general. That's what it is. It's either you're that guy or you're not that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to not be that guy. Mm-hmm. But when you're not that guy and you're getting guaranteed contract, something's up.
You know, that made Paul Allen happy, the longtime voice of the Vikings. Because I heard some of his highlight calls after they played San Francisco, and I've never heard him that despondent except for anytime Brett Favre went down. And I'm a big fan of Paul Allen. I am a huge fan of Paul Allen. Okay? I'm a huge fan of Paul Allen as a play-by-play guy. But I think he realized early that his Vikings were overmatched.
I mean, you had no choice. Listen, once Cook was not able to go, that's it. Dalvin Cook, if they were for them to win, Dalvin Cook would have had to have a hell of a game.
He would have to have 200 yards, and you ain't getting 200 yards rushing against that front four. That's not good.
You ain't getting it.
You're not getting 100 against that front four.
That's what I'm saying.
You ain't getting 100 against that front four. Okay? And what was funny, the game was on a Saturday. My wife and I were sitting watching it, and she looked at me and she says, "You know you're going to get excited, right?" Yes. And she just looked, "You're just sitting very still. We don't have the ball yet." And then the 49ers got the ball, marched it right into the end zone, and not only did I make my wife laugh, I frightened my dog.
Aww.
When I jumped up and said touchdown really loud and I was running around the house, my wife was cracking up laughing. When I finally sit down, my dog hopped in my lap and just went to work licking my face going, "It's okay, you scared me, Daddy. I understand now." And every time I scored a touchdown, I got excited and the dog was chasing me around the house. Oh boy. But it was fun. It's absolutely fun. One more thing.
Absolutely.
Proud Papa. How's that been going?
It's different, man. Unfortunately, she's a distance away, so that's the hard part.
Yeah.
I try my best to see her, every day via FaceTime, but because of the coronavirus is going on, it's not safe. It's really not safe for her to be around too many people right now. And
Understood.
Her such a tender age, like I said, she just turned 4. She's turned 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a tough part. But this is just another adjustment that it's kind of tough. It's tough right now, but I mean, looking at her is just so much. I feel with so much joy as she grows. Like I tell you, every month she looks different.
Yeah.
Every month, man.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. We're gonna get through this so you can see your baby girl. All right. I'm cheering you on. We're gonna make sure we get through this pandemic so fathers can be reunited with their children. I know some distance has to be involved, but it's going to happen. Quirvante Hurd, one of the members of the Flex Zone, joining me. We just hopped all over the place, man. Thank you for the time. I totally appreciate it.
Listen, man, thank you for having me on, and we do this all the time, and it's great. I love it.
We're going to have to make this a weekly segment, man. We're just going to have to.
Hey, man, listen, man, just call me.
You got it.
Just call me.
You got it, man.
Snowman in the morning. Where true sports talk lives.
He did what? I did not need to be told that.
Rolling right along here on the program, and I want to bring back an old friend who I haven't had on in a while, Mr. Perry Miles. Mr. Miles, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Still dealing with this quarantine, man. I don't like it anymore.
I don't know anyone that really likes the quarantine. I mean, people are out of work. Broadcasters don't have the same kind of jobs. People on the broadcasts are falling ill. Just heard of a few entertainers that passed away. But all in all, I mean, virtual businesses are doing a lot better than ones that did these kinds of services in person.
Yeah.
Which is something to be expected.
Yeah, something
to be expected.
Yeah, totally to be expected. You had a few notes that you wanted to talk about. What you got on your mind?
So, when I look at this, I always think of something as glass half full. Yeah. And two of the more pressing stories in sports that actually were sports stories, I feel like Tom Brady's committed more crimes this week than he ever did in New England in his 20 years. Whether they were accidental or on purpose. And think about it. First, he goes into a Tampa park and gets told that he can't go in there by a city employee, and on the call with Mayor Cantor of Tampa and Mayor Christman of St. Petersburg, they talk about that story, and all of a sudden, they said, oh, it was Mr. Tom Brady, and Christman's like, oh my gosh. And it was unbelievable. And then a couple of days later, because Brady will never quit trying to do the best that he can for his football team, goes into the wrong house in Tampa, and apparently all the houses in Davis Islands look relatively similar, except for the one that he's staying at, which is the proud owner of Mr. Derek Jeter over there.
Yeah,
but it's so weird. And then of course Rob Gronkowski coming down here, and quite a few people who are Patriots fans, ex-girlfriends who are Patriots fans, and employees who are ex-Patriots fans. They're not too happy right now. They basically think that Belichick cost his team any chance this year of going to a Super Bowl. They felt that Rob Gronkowski last year would have been enough to beat the Titans and eventually beat the Chiefs, which is what their next matchup would have been.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy. Mm-hmm. I mean, more crimes committed by Tom Brady in like a week than he ever did in 20 years in New England. It baffles my mind.
Perry Miles on the program with me. There are some venues, as I'm looking at your notes here, there are some entertainment venues that are opening back up. Did I read that right?
Have you looked at the news regarding Jacksonville Beach, Treasure Island, a few places?
I have.
As a matter of fact, like, there's so many Facebook photos of people going out on a boat. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, Florida has not really been a hot spot the way that New York has, or New Jersey, or Atlanta in some cases has been.
Yeah.
And people are still going out as if everything's back to normal again. And even in Georgia, they opened up, on a limited basis, of course, but they opened up tattoo shops, hair salons, many of the service industries. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, do people really want to do this, or are they getting ready for 2 to 3 months down the road so that way other organizations like Tinder or Bumble, or in a more sophisticated case, a JDate or an eHarmony or whatever, can make more business?
Mm-hmm.
It baffles my mind that people, in spite of this, would go to these kinds of lengths just to go to a beach.
Yeah.
That way. It's one thing if you're exercising, but you could exercise on Pinellas Trail in St. Pete. You could exercise anywhere. You could do like 15, 20, 25 minutes of jumping jacks and would have the same impact as running for 3 miles on the beach.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they just extended here where I am the stay-at-home moratorium until May 8th. It was set to expire this week, and now they extended it. Have they extended it in your area?
They, as far as I know, no. They're looking to open things up. Florida was one of the last states to close things down.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, as you can tell by the Tom Brady news, they kept their word. They treated Tom Brady as if he was as if he were a regular person, not the biggest celebrity to come to Tampa Bay in 20 years. And hey, I know you laugh, but it's possibly the greatest thing to keep everyone in check, that even this applies to someone with his kind of standing.
Yeah, it does.
Equal opportunity.
Indeed. Perry Miles joining me here on the program. The reopening of some entertainment values, how does that affect sports as we know it right now?
When you say the reopening, are you talking about the NBA horse contest? Are you talking about a virtual, potentially beer pong tournament?
I'm talking about all of it.
I had an opportunity to watch the horse matchup between all those celebrities, between the WNBA, NBA, and even some real entertainers.
Mm-hmm.
Or, just in general entertainers. And it was not exciting. And if the
really
NBA
wasn't.
goes to no fans again, okay, I'm just being honest with you, if it goes to no fans again, except maybe a litany of like 20 people in golf, or maybe 100 people or 200 people scattered in a basketball arena.
Yeah.
I mean, the players will still play. They'll still earn their dollars through TV advertising and TV revenues. It's not the same without the fans because of the energy, the hostility, the camaraderie that comes with that.
Mm-hmm.
The purchasing inside the venue. The teams don't make almost any money on the tickets. They make the money on the advertising.
Yep.
And then they also make it on the concessions. Because the ticket, let's say you're in Charlotte, you're going to a Bobcats game. You could probably get a ticket for $20. So if you did $20 a ticket times, let's say 20,000 tickets, I don't know what the capacity is. That's roughly $400,000 per game, which is a nice amount of money.
Yeah.
But as you know, the Charlotte Bobcats salary cap is in the multiple millions.
Yeah, hundreds of millions.
Not to mention the travel and the hotels and everything else that comes with that. So there's no way to make money with just tickets. It comes with the concession, so it comes with whether people buy cotton candy or peanuts or beer or other items that will help the business to grow.
Mm-hmm. It also helps with the. It also helps with the. I want to call them box seats, but the suites. That's what I'm looking for. It also helps with the suites and the money they make with selling the suites for a night before season.
Part of the reason the Yankees didn't care about either doubling or tripling some of their seat prices was because they were able to charge more for the box seats and the luxury boxes.
Yeah.
Basically, any seat behind home plate, any luxury boxes, they either tripled, quadrupled, or quintupled the prices. In response, the advertisers who were buying those luxury seats had signage out there, so they got their exposure.
Yep.
They probably had some sort of TV package associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
So if they spent $200,000 or $400,000 or $600,000 for advertising, and then let's say they spent $40,000-$50,000 on seats a year or something along those lines, whatever it is, they wind up making a huge amount of money on that because of all the residuals.
True.
The Yankees give them an opportunity.
Yeah, the opportunity lies. Opportunity's there, man. But as a fan, I'm just waiting for it all to open back up. Part A and Part B, I want it to happen safely. I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to rush anything back. The NBA fans I've spoken to, they want to rush it back because they want to see the Lakers and LeBron, don't get me started, win another title. Yeah, you know how I feel about that particular subject.
Well, I do, but keep in mind that there are other teams out west that if the season were to start again, that those teams, I think, could defeat the Lakers under healthy circumstances.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
One of them is out east in the Milwaukee Bucks.
Milwaukee Bucks
with Giannis and the cast of second and third stars that they have.
Yep.
Chris Middleton. If I'm not mistaken, Chris Middleton too.
Yeah.
Brogdon. Brogdon's in Indiana, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But you have the Clippers. You never ever count out Kawhi Leonard.
Never.
Especially the fact that he beat the Warriors last year.
Yep.
And here's an interesting tidbit, too. If there is no more NBA season and there's no NBA playoffs, you know that every NBA fan would say, oh, why, Perry? Why are you saying this? The interesting tidbit is, conceivably, the Golden State Warriors could make their sixth consecutive NBA Finals next year with the cast of characters coming back healthy. With Draymond Green getting a cast with Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, and let's not forget potentially either the number one pick or and Milwaukee Bucks fans are going to absolutely hate this, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Or Karl Anthony Towns. Or Karl Anthony Towns from Minnesota. You know, I put the rumor out there that Karl Anthony Towns could wind up in Golden State. You know, and there's also rumor that Giannis could wind up in Golden State. So if there's no NBA World Championship Series this year, one of those two will wind up in San Francisco.
I believe that will happen, but I believe the funny thing is Milwaukee, even though they have a great new facility over there, it's still a small market city in the Midwest.
Yep.
And that's not named Chicago.
True.
And until the smaller markets can equate and provide the kind of lap of luxury that is there, I don't see Giannis returning to Milwaukee once he becomes a free agent, which, by the way, is next year.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's no championship this year for Milwaukee, does Milwaukee take a chance, or do they want to get something for it? And the answer is, I think the Warriors, it would behoove them to trade the number one pick if they can get a guy like Giannis. I would not trade the number one overall pick or the number two, however that flies, for Karl Anthony Towns. I believe they're very, very different players.
Yeah.
I think Giannis is the best player in basketball. I believe Karl Anthony Towns is in the top 15.
Understood. Perry Miles joining me here on the program. Tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
So I have a company called Miles Smart Tutoring. It's based out of St. Petersburg, Florida. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. MilesSmartTutoring.com. We deal with a lot of sports people that are going into colleges and so on. But we also help people to finish homework assignments, because at this time, it's been a very difficult struggle for many parents. Parents who have not seen this kind of work in possibly 5, 10, 15 years. And I've heard of situations like this where socially and emotionally things get much tighter, especially when people are around each other. It's nice to have a break once in a while from people that you've seen all the time. So we're helping those individuals to not only complete homework assignments, do well in those assignments, but essentially indirectly repair certain kinds of relationships that could otherwise be ruined due to this pandemic. And we want to help people.
MilesSmartTutoring.com is where you can find them, and you can also find them on this program. In the very near future, you can have them on every week. So we're gonna get that set up. Thanks a lot, my friend. I appreciate the time.
No problem. Thank you, Brian.
I'm gonna roll on after this. Well, that's going to just about do it for this edition of Snowman in the Morning. Want to thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to log on to Snowman Digital Media, where you can hear a replay of this show, and also snowmaninthemorning.com, where you can hear a replay of this show. Check out the podcast on both sites, as the podcast will be available immediately after I close up shop here, which I'm about to do now. Until tomorrow, have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move, and always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. I am, and I hope you all are too. Until tomorrow, Snowman's out of here.